Flicker on the screen, ranting in the basement with a red hot lens, white tie, digital debris, banging on the keys like a ghost in the machine. Angry kid, bad at every level, calling out the kings and the pixelated devils. Paradise is burning down, words of paradise, burning down the town. He talks, he fights, he stays up through the night. Paradise is burning down, words of paradise, he wears a digital crown.
Welcome back to an incredibly late episode of the Lunch Hour. I'm so sorry about that, crew. I've got family in town this week. I set up the stream at like 10 this morning. I was like, all right, perfect. That'll be plenty of time. Go spend time with family. Completely lost track of time. I got a text about 3:27 being like, hey, don't you have a show? I looked at the time and thought, oh, fuck, I do. And so, yeah, hopped on the YouTube Studio app, changed it to 4, rushed back home. Sorry about that, guys. Totally wasn't thinking. But you know what? You wanted the silver lining. The silver lining is that family is important, right? Spend time with your family. You never know when the last time you're going to see them is. That's my excuse for the whole debacle. But shout out, guys. We're going to have a fucking great show. We've got a video about Israel from our boy Matt, Foulball Productions. You know, we support our own around here, so it's going to be great reacting to that. And then we have a whole lot of video game and anime drama. So let's get into it. Let's see who we got up in this bitch. You'll love to see it. Jack SG2s, Anthony Way, how you doing? Dat Darno Taku, King Too Tall. Don't tell me Leon's late because he's no, I certainly was not watching TV. Although I do have the Wi-Fi 24-hour stream just running in the background pretty much all the time. Saint Hugo, shout out. Jeremy Hughes reviews. Fell Step is here. The Mad Hatter. I see it's 3-ish. Sup chat. Leon hates us. I don't hate you guys. I just value family. Fallen Angel, how you doing? Late and super ultra mega final form Liberace gay. You know, there is AI art of me as Liberace. I think Moxie made it. Could be wrong. Clip 420, if I can call you out. El Mervot is here. Shout out to you. Let's see. Is there Adam C? Did the feds get Leon? I'm sure that will happen at some point. Dylan B is here. Shout out to you. Yeah, that explains a lot. Yes, I appreciate it. The Runaway Vagabond is here. Sleeping Nova, I appreciate you. Valiant Goat, Drunk and Ferret over on the Kick side. You're gonna you good, gonna lure. Hope the stream is great. Awesome. I need to pull up Kick. I totally forgot. Xavier, shout out to you. Adam C is here. Butter framed in gold, gifting awards of Bear Eyes membership. Truly appreciate you. Let's get you a clip, my man, with a plan.
Pleasure doing business with you, Emperor. Oh, Croaky. This is for the broken window.
What broken window?
You'll love to see. I rarely play that clip. I love that clip. Again, thank you so much for the 5-banger, homie. Artemis Entreri is here. Fallen Angel. Chibi did a video where he talks about Vic Mignogna dressing. Yeah, no, we're gonna cover that. You're jumping the gun on me. We're gonna cover that. That's when I say Crunchyroll in the title. That's I meant to put Funimation, not Crunchyroll. Although at this point it's basically the same fucking thing. So yeah, we will be talking about the Vic Mignogna stuff today. Oh, did you hit Cliff? Is that where? Let's see. You said thank you. Did you hit? You did. Nice. Good hit, Butter. El Mervot with a 2-banger. I do hope today or this week address the Vic stuff. Yeah, we shout out you and Fallen Angel both. Yes, we will be talking about the Vic stuff on this stream. Shadowbusters here. JW, shout out to you. Gamer's Gale. It's been waiting for this specifically because you bring up Final Fantasy. Well, we're bringing up remake culture in general. We're bringing up remake culture in general, and as much as I have a hate boner for the Resident Evil remakes, I figure that the Final Fantasy VII remake is actually more like digestible and normal for people. Super duper late. Yeah, no, I was hanging out with family. I lost track of time. First Demon Lilith, I'm confused. Why make Hondo at thumbnails? I think it's fuck you. Die. I don't even care about you. Get the fuck out of here. Rabnad, what is up? How you doing? Alrighty, crew. Before we get into the gaming news, my boy Matt over at Foul Ball Productions has been working on this video for ages. He is a friend of the channel. He's a great dude, and he is very politically savvy. And he worked on Did We Fight the Iraq War for Israel? What You Don't Know, Part 1. I mean, I've been waiting on him to do this video for like 6 months now. It's finally out. Let's see if we learn anything new about the filthy snickles.
On March 20th, 2003, George W. Bush and the United States military launched the largest foreign invasion since the Vietnam War. And while the world watched the staggering display of the now infamous shock and awe campaign on TV, the country's debate raged as to the validity of this war.
The anti-war camp would assert that Saddam Hussein had nothing to do with 9/11 and that this was a war for oil. And the pro-war camp rebutting that Hussein was indeed responsible for 9/11. Ahmed Shalabi said so. And furthermore, he was a brutal dictator that needed to be deposed.
Now, mind you, two things can be true. Two things can be true. Saddam Hussein can be a brutal dictator that need to be deposed, and also we could absolutely not be fighting this war for oil in any way, shape, or form. It could actually be all at the behest of Israel because they control the U.S. Just saying.
Supported terror networks, and we should free the people of Iraq from tyranny.
Well, what if I told you that neither of those arguments had anything to do with why we really went to Iraq? What if I told you there was another motivation serving another interest entirely, one that didn't serve the American people or the Iraqi people? What if I told you the only country this war ultimately served was Israel?
There is no question whatsoever that Saddam is seeking and is working and is advancing towards the development of nuclear weapons. No question whatsoever.
Following the shocking and devastating attacks on 9/11, the tranquil America of the 1990s had been permanently destroyed. It truly
He's hard selling. Dude, Tiger King coming in clutch. Yes, he is incredibly hard selling. You're absolutely correct. I don't know about you guys. It turns out I have a lot of younger viewers, not like children. Thank God children are allowed in these streams, but like people who are younger than I thought they would, people that were born after 9/11. I would imagine, though, most of my chat remembers where they were, what was happening, what they were doing during 9/11. I know I do. I will never forget what I was doing during. I never forget. That was unintentional. What I was doing during 9/11. I was in 3rd grade, and yeah, you saw it live. So did we. My 2nd grade teacher had it playing live on TV. Or third grade teacher, sorry, my third grade teacher had live playing on TV. Evan with a 5-banger. As per usual, the reality lay somewhere between the two presented positions if they weren't simply distractions. And distractions don't mean untruths, mind you. Something can be true and be a distraction. And that is what, like, the oil versus the anti-war, all the talking points, the nukes, all of that was equally a distraction and had truth to it in terms of, like, the ideological positions people held. But at the end of the day, yes, it very much seems like this was certainly for oil. Shout out, I think you're the 5-banger. I'm going to let the video play out, but I will get your clips afterwards.
Really was a new millennium. From our homes, we all watched over and over the catastrophic footage of the towers being attacked and subsequently collapsing. And the American people wanted blood. I know I did. I watched as the Twin Towers burned a mere 16 miles from where I grew up. We could even see the awful destruction from right across the river. Somebody had to pay. Anybody. Everybody. People need to die for what happened.
And I still agree with that sentiment. I just think that considering our own government's the one that did 9/11, who needs to die is the actual question here.
We found out it was a man named Osama bin Laden and a group called Al-Qaeda hiding in some country that we had never heard of, who orchestrated the horrific attack on us simply because they hated our freedoms, that our decadent Western lifestyle was an affront to theirs. Turn it into a parking lot. Glass it, we'd say. These podunk Arabs needed to feel the full might of the U.S. war machine and fast.
Base.
So we watched as U.S. Special Forces were on the...
Now, mind you, y'all know I'm no fan of Israel. In fact, I loathe Israel. That being said, I also loathe Islam. So even in hindsight, while I don't like the fact that we are doing this and that we basically did this at the behest of Israel, Islam is also an existential threat. So silver linings, I guess. Yo, shout out Foul Ball Productions. Guys, this man right here is the one that made this video. We'll be posting the link to the video in the chat afterwards, as we always do. Make sure you go give him a sub. You still say glass it? I also still say glass it. I just don't like that we'd glass it at the behest of Israel. A family friend re-enlisted as a SEAL. He had a great tour in Afghanistan, grew a big beard. Tired King and his judge people based on beards. The man has got consistency.
Ground in Afghanistan only several days after the attacks, and next, the Marines were going to get him. Going to get all of them. And while for a time, this satisfied our lust for revenge, our fury to get those who would do this to us, we still wondered, why us? Aren't we the good guys? What did we do? These genuine and earnest questions reflected our deep naivete to our foreign...
Well, here's the thing. Again, back to the two things can be true. You know, when he poses the question, aren't we the good guys? Yes, the American people are, and the American people always have been. Our government, and any government that seeks to take away your freedoms or get butt-fucked by another lesser country, such as Israel, are not the good guys. And that's the big distinction to make. You watching this, me, all of us, the citizenry, we are the good guys. The people that we put in charge, again, whether it be to our naivete, like Foulball is saying, or just because, you know, we're retarded, absolutely are not.
Policy in the 1990s, and it wouldn't be until much later that myself and many others would come to learn that perhaps we weren't so magnanimous and innocent, and in fact, Osama bin Laden stated exactly why he launched those attacks and had almost everything to do with our foreign ally and the hell being wrought down in the Middle East. However, we would never learn of it, at least not for a while. But Osama bin Laden's motivations aside, our slow-moving ground war in Afghanistan did not have the cathartic effect of victory that we needed. It didn't quite scratch the itch. More was necessary. Enter Saddam Hussein. Our old nemesis, Saddam Hussein, the loser and antagonist of the last war we had fought, and a much maligned villain in the minds of Americans.
Okay. Well, to be fair, calling the Gulf War a war, kind of overselling it. The air raids lasted all like 2 fucking weeks, but I get what he means.
Just call me your old pal, Saddam Hussein.
Saddam Hussein, the Iraqi dictator?
Hey, relax, guy.
Apparently, he had a hand in this dastardly attack. He was getting vengeance against the younger Bush for his humiliating defeat at the hands of Bush Sr. near 10 years ago. He had coordinated with Al-Qaeda to bring down the towers and start a war. Well, if it was war he wanted, war is what he would get, said the American people. But none of this was true. None of it. Not only did Saddam have nothing to do with 9/11, our own intelligence agencies verified this thoroughly.
Hold on, let's go back and read that headline.
Did Saddam have nothing to do with 9/11? Our own
No Iraq linked to September 11 plot. U.S. report finds that article is more than 22 years old. And yes, I remember this being talked about. Fuck, in like 2003, I think. I'm pretty sure this news came to light in like 2003, a mere 2 years into the war on terror. So yeah, checks out.
Intelligence agencies verified this thoroughly. He wasn't even particularly antagonistic to the U.S. In the lead up to the war, Saddam will capitulate to nearly. Wasn't even.
Matt, by the way, this has been a great video so far. I hope you're still watching. I do have point of what's the word? Some advice for you when doing these scripted videos. It's the same thing I do. If you're reading off a script, which this is a brilliantly written script, for the parts where your face is going to be on camera, if you've got that section memorized, I would look at the camera like you're just addressing the audience. That's just my opinion. I figured I'd give you some advice since, again, I reacted to this because you did such a great fucking job. Did you cover the Blizzard story? Not yet. This is the first thing we're doing today.
Particularly antagonistic to the U.S. In the lead up to the war, Saddam will capitulate to nearly every single U.S. demand, yet the Bush administration insisted war was the only way. Well, it turns out there was a very small yet very influential group inside our own government who had the desire, no, the need to make this whole mess about Saddam Hussein.
The Jews!
But why? After all, we had a real enemy to fight, a real enemy who had struck a blow inside U.S. territory for the first time since Pearl Harbor. Why did this small yet disturbingly influential group want to kill Saddam and destroy Iraq so bad? And just who the hell were they? Israel's beef with Iraq was not something that began on 9/11, nor did they, their intelligence establishment, or the Americans working on their behalf believe in any way that Saddam Hussein had anything to do with 9/11.
Let's be real. Israel's beef with Iraq isn't even really Israel's beef with Iraq. This is the 3,000-year-old conflict of, actually probably more than 3,000 years old. Well, let's say 3,000 years old. This is the thousands upon thousands-year-old, war of the Jews versus the Muslims. Both inferior religions and people groups who are completely irrelevant and should not matter one good goddamn iota to the Christian populace.
Not why they wanted the war. This war was about land, power, and regional hegemony, and Saddam Hussein stood in the way of that. During the Gulf War, Saddam Hussein launched Scud attacks into Israel, damaging much infrastructure but having little impact in the way of casualties. Some reports say that no one died in those attacks. Regardless of the death toll, Israel does not take attacks on their civilians lightly. However, this attack by Saddam was a feint, a manipulation in an attempt to lure Israel into war, and by doing so, destroy the U.S. Arab coalition and end or seriously weaken the U.S. invasion of Kuwait. It was believed by Saddam that if Israel joined the fight, the Arabs in the coalition would abandon the war, not wanting to be seen fighting alongside Israel. But it didn't work. George H.W. Bush, despite the fact that he was loathed by the Israeli prime minister, managed to convince Yitzhak Shamir not to retaliate and allow the U.S. to continue.
Brownie points for anyone who knows the song's from. Hold on, now I gotta roll it back.
Prime minister managed to convince Yitzhak Shamir not to retaliate and allow the U.S. to continue unabated. So Saddam's play failed, and he was run out of Kuwait with his tail between his legs and half his military strength destroyed.
I was trying to figure it out, but no, I don't know. I like it, but I don't know.
But the Israelis did not forget. Nor did they forget that Saddam was personally compensating Palestinian terrorist families who would carry out suicide missions on the IDF and Israeli citizens.
See, and here's what I like about this video. Obviously, this is an anti-Israel video. I mean, again, it's literally titled, Did we fight the Iraq war for Israel? What you don't know, part 1. I can't wait till part 2 drops, mind you. But even though this is obviously Deus Ex, I knew it was a fucking 90s game. I should have guessed. I knew it was a 90s game. Anyway, even though this is very obviously an anti-Israel video, and justifiably so, I love that he's like, hey, these are Palestinian terrorists. Because you don't... Guys, contrary to popular belief, you can still acknowledge that these are fucking Islamic terrorists while also saying fuck Israel as well. two things can be true. And there's so many individuals on like the pro-Israel side that denounce terrorism because, oh, they're pro-Israel. So obviously they hit the Islams. But there's so many people on the anti-Israel side that will lie to themselves and try and pretend that these Islamic regimes aren't terrorists simply because they have to tell themselves the Islamic regimes are the good guys to justify their hatred of Israel. When no, any intelligent individual can tell you both sides are fucking evil.
But that's not the story. This is not a story of a nation victimized by a crazy dictator and getting some well-deserved payback. Well, not entirely anyway. This is the story of the scrappy little nation that could in their pursuit of regional domination, no matter how many countries get destroyed or how many men, women, and children need to die. It is perhaps the most open secret in the world that Israel has a large nuclear arsenal with over 100 warheads, long-range missiles, and Dolphin-class submarines.
Well, hold on. Let's...
A large nuclear arsenal with over 100 warheads,
I sort of agree here. Yes, it is very much an open secret that Israel has nuclear capabilities. Like they don't admit how many warheads they have. They won't even confirm they have them, but everybody fucking knows they do. I wish Matt would give a source for how he came to over 100 warheads. I don't even necessarily think that he's wrong. For all we know, it could be even more than that. But because Israel does not list their numbers in any way, shape, or form, I don't know how we come to the conclude, like come to a number of over 100. It's a bit odd that we always seem to have to choose which enemy we ally with for now instead of just accepting both parties are our enemies. That is also very true. The Uniparty is and has always been the great lie told to the American people.
Long-range missiles, and Dolphin-class submarines. They are also the only country in the region with this capability, and if you've been paying attention to the news for the past 2 years, one might note they sure don't want anyone else to have that capability.
But Iran is so dangerous.
Now, again, I'm actually fine with this mentality. I would not have a good goddamn issue with anything Israel's doing if they weren't using us as a go-between to do it, if they were not using us as their bullshit proxy. Look, Israel want to be the only ones in the area that got themselves a nuclear arsenal. I don't give a fuck. You're surrounded by filthy Muslims. Yeah, don't let the filthy Muslims have nukes. Filthy goat fucking Muslims having nukes that marry 9-year-old girls. I don't like that. I think that's a bad thing. However, Israel using us as the proxy for all that, that's the issue I have. It's a collective intelligence assessment is the best guess. Okay, gotcha. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
They're very close. They're 6 months away from being about 90% of having the enriched uranium for an atom bomb. Iran is gearing up to produce 25 bombs, atomic bombs a year, 250 bombs in a decade.
Ladies and gentlemen, time is running out.
Iran will be capable of producing alone, without importing anything, nuclear bombs within 3 to 5 years.
Now, to be fair, Iran has been, for the last God knows how many years, slowly enriching uranium to try and make nuclear bombs. Like, this isn't just some wild fake news story that Netanyahu came up with to get American dollars. Iran has absolutely been trying this. We've had, on Tinfoil Haters, we covered the most insane cyber warfare case to ever exist. What was the name of the virus? Either way, the name of the virus that basically was put into these Iranian missile uranium enrichment plants to fuck up production. I've got to remember the name of the virus now. This is killing me. Computer virus in the 2000s that ruined Iran nuclear facility. Stuxnet. It was the Stuxnet virus, and it was in 2010. So, 2010. That's 16 years ago. Iran has been trying to. Israel's supposed to agree to the non-proliferation treaty, like every nuclear power. Yeah, and I agree with that. I absolutely agree with you here. And like I said, whether they agree to the because no country follows any of these treaties. They don't. They just hide it better. Just like no one follows the Geneva Convention. They just hide it better. Everyone's violated the Geneva Convention. Everyone would, if you tried to expose Russia, then they would expose the U.S. The U.S. would expose, Saudi Arabia. Any of these countries. I don't know if Saudi Arabia is on the Geneva Convention, but my point is, all these countries that supposedly signed the Geneva Convention have all violated it. Same with the non-proliferation. So that's shady countries going to do shady country shit. Weapons of mass destruction. Yeah, nobody cares about that. You mean the Geneva suggestions or checklist? Exactly. Lights too bright, Geneva Convention. So whether Israel follows it or not, I think is irrelevant. I think that all that matters is whether or not they use us as a proxy for their lies.
Invention, no country who has possessed the bomb has ever been invaded by a foreign power, and I imagine Saddam noted this, because back in the 1970s, Saddam had purchased a nuclear reactor from France in exchange for favorable oil deals during the worldwide fuel shortages. It was believed that this was the first step Saddam would take towards acquiring a nuclear weapon, but Israel was having none of it. They bombed that reactor in 1981, stopping that plan dead in its tracks. But even without a nuke, Saddam's army was big. Really big, nearly 1 million people strong around the time of the Gulf War, the 5th largest army in the world at that time, and they had equipment.
And yet the Gulf War ended as a fucking joke. Honestly, this I don't know about. So this whole video is about, when we went to war post 9/11 for Israel. I wonder how much of the Gulf War we fought on behalf of Israel, and maybe none. Maybe that just happens to be the one conflict in the Middle East that we were involved in that didn't have anything to do with Israel. Press X to doubt, but
too. Even though through sanctions and U.S. interference, Saddam's army was severely weakened, they were still a serious concern at nearly 500,000 men and considered a regional threat to the safety of Israel. But all of that wasn't actually the real issue. The fundamental reason they wanted Saddam gone? Palestine.
Grid to suppress, Mike Charlie, 435-921. Grid to mark.
Saddam's political party was known as the Baathists, or Baath Party, a socialist party in name. They were a pan-Arab.
Wild, it's known as the Baath Party when these filthy Muslims don't know what bathing even is.
Project, a group intended to unite all the Arabs in the region against the perceived evils of Western imperialism, colonialism, and oppression. The visionary party would unite the Syrians, the Egyptians, the Saudis, the Lebanese, Jordan, Iraq, all the Gulf states, and Palestine. A united front to stand up to Israel and the West, to rescue the occupied Palestinians and return the land to the Arabs who they felt had rightly belonged. In 1994, the Oslo Accords had concluded that while not immediately, a complicated agreement was accomplished that would, in theory, lead to Palestinian sovereignty and their own government so they could be freed, at least in part, from the shackles of Israeli power. But what if they weren't? What if instead of that, Israel would destabilize, demand submissive allegiance, or totally overthrow any country or leader in the region who could put pressure on Israel to live up to this? And in addition, Israel could have full regional control and fulfill the biblical project of Greater Israel. With regional dominance,
and that part is the terrifying part. Look, I don't know about you guys. I consider myself a pretty good God-fearing Christian man. There's a whole lot of prophecies in the Bible. I don't like that Israel's trying to force them. They are, and that terrifies me. Something tells me the big man upstairs is like, yeah, we got these prophecies. They're going to happen naturally. It doesn't take too kindly to humans, specifically Israel and the Jews, trying to force those prophecies to bring about the end times. That seems like the sort of shit that would make any other father be like, oh, you want to force this? All right, let's fucking force this. And he will rain down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger. Those who appreciate Pulp Fiction, even though he's actually got that biblical quote in that movie entirely wrong. Point is, that terrifies me. Like the red cow, Israel trying to fulfill all these biblical prophecies, rebuilding of the third temple. That shit's those prophecies ain't fulfilling themselves. Like that to me, the sheer fucking hubris that Israel has to have to try and force these biblical prophecies is terrifying.
Oil wealth of the land and control of all the shipping that passed through the Mediterranean to the Persian Gulf, Israel could achieve Middle Eastern autocracy. It could all be theirs. No enemies, no rivals, and no Palestinian state. This is, in part, the proposal of the Clean Break Memo. Written in June 1996, fully titled A Clean Break, A New Strategy for Securing the Realm, it was a military strategy paper written expressly for the incoming Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. It was constructed by an Israeli think tank called the Institute for Advanced Strategic and Political Studies, or IASPS. It was based in Jerusalem, but it's more apt to call it a Jewish think tank, as the three main authors, David Wurmser, Richard Pearl, and Douglas Fife, are all American Jews, not Israeli.
That is a very interesting piece of information. I was completely unaware of this. I was completely unaware of this think tank. I was unaware of this strategy they posted in, I think he said 1996. This is not that there's anything wrong with the video, but I think this is the coolest piece of information from this video so far. And it just goes to show how far back they've had their claws in America.
Remember these names. They will be important later. A funny note is that even though it's widely believed that he did, Douglas Feith claims to have not had any input on the memo. However, the copy I read for this video, I pulled directly from his website where it's still publicly hosted. I'll let you.
Homeboys, I didn't work on this. I didn't write it. I had no hand in this. But you can check it out on my website for completely free if anybody's curious. Like, what the fuck, bro? You're a Jew. You're supposed to be good at lying. What the fuck?
You decide. But here's what the paper lays out. It urges Bibi to reject the Oslo Accords and enact a peace through strength position by undermining Arafat and ruling the Palestinians through brutal power. It certainly seems they've adopted that position. It insists on taking military action towards Lebanon, Syrian targets in Lebanon.
Right, yeah, if you're gonna lie, at least don't host the truth yourself. Imagine that I was to tell you guys something along the lines of like, hey, I had to cancel going to the Southeast Game Exchange because I had some sort of family emergency or something. And then I'm posting pictures from me at the Southeast Game Exchange on Instagram. And I just said that to get out of fucking like streaming or whatever because I was having too much fun at the con. If you're gonna lie, commit to the fucking lie, bro.
Lebanon and Syria itself. And it explicitly describes taking out Saddam Hussein in Iraq as a way to weaken Syria, who had been encroaching on Lebanon and thereby threatening and attacking Israel. It goes on to further state that removing Saddam is, quote, an important Israeli objective in its own right. Now, this is certainly a compelling piece of evidence, and one that
I was about to say, and what was the goalpost shifted to when it comes to the war on terror? Like, just like with 9/11, I remember where I was when they hung Saddam after all those years. I was in St. Louis at my grandparents' house. My grandma was still alive at the time, and we watched I wouldn't say we watched the execution live because they cut the cameras right before he was actually hung. But like the cameras were rolling live up until the point like they put the black little protection thing on his neck. They put the noose around there up until they actually did the hanging. They had that shit live, and they cut to black. Yes, obviously the end goal was Saddam Hussein. And then explain to me why the war didn't end after that. Like that should have been the end of it, right? Except it's not. And my question is, why on God's green earth, if Israel is so smart, if these Jews are so fucking smart, why would they say, oh, Saddam, the devil we know, is this big, awful, evil, bad guy? Which, again, he was, because all Muslims are. But not have any contingency plans for the sheer power vacuum that killing him would... And that's why... Well, that's why we stayed in the Middle East for so many years after Saddam's hanging, because that created a power vacuum. All these other factions rose up. They're all vying for control. Yeah, they could say whatever about like, oh, death to America, but in all reality, it's just a control game. A lot of it's probably because, again, they want to get rid of Israel, which in turn means they want to get rid of us because we're a proxy for Israel. Like there's so many, it seems like there's so many flaws and issues with this, plan, for lack of a better word. It's kind of fucking insane.
That is commonly cited, but I would forgive you if you were not convinced by one piece of paper written 5 years before 9/11 to a prime minister who wasn't even in power in 2003. That would probably not convince me either. So is there more?
There's more.
A lot more?
Much more.
Woo!
Following the
Now, I do get that reference. I do get that was SLC Punk. I do get that reference.
This paper, the author, David Wormser, went on to write a follow-up called Coping with Crumbling States. This paper far more directly argues
destabilizing and balkanization was the point. Any opposition power could be a threat, so better they fight themselves. But the thing is, I get that it was destabilizing, but I'd be willing, to make the argument that because the destabilization, the enemy is now more numerous, more aggressive, harder to fight because there's no unifying faction. I mean, anytime you've got a power vacuum, the instability makes things so much more unpredictable, and that unpredictability often causes even more loss of life, more random acts of violence. Like, I understand that was their goal, but it seems the cons far outweigh the pros.
Argues for the removal of Saddam as an imminent threat to Israel, stating that a post-Saddam Middle East would vastly tip the balance of power, one that Israel could take full advantage of. He followed this up with a book called Tyranny's Ally, America's Failure to Defeat Saddam Hussein, that excoriated the Clinton administration for not finishing off Saddam in the 90s. Well, so what, you might say? One guy wrote a book and a few papers on the subject. What does that prove? Yeah, he wrote it for Netanyahu, but he's not the president. That is true. However, this particular author went on to work at the State Department starting in 2001 as a special assistant to one John Bolton. Yeah.
I think we all see where this is going.
Yes, that John Bolton. Trump-Russia collusion, Iraq war superhawk, currently facing prison for intelligence crimes, John Bolton. It seems Wormser's influence has spread in the new millennium, and judging from what was to come, Bolton's office was enthusiastically on board with the plan. In addition, it's also worth mentioning that another letter directly written to President
overthrowing Saddam Hussein was the right move for the U.S. and its allies, says John Bolton. You mean one of the main dudes under the thumb of Israel and one of the biggest war hawks in modern American history agreed with the overthrowing? You don't fucking say. I like Bolton's mustache. Tiger King never fucking changed, brother.
On board with the plan. In addition, it's also worth mentioning that another letter directly written to President Clinton was sent in 1998 advocating for a regime change war against Saddam from another think tank known as the Project for a New American Century.
All right, boys, take it all bets. How many Snickles were part of this fucking think tank? I don't know what Matt's going to say. The video's only got another minute or so, but how many Snickles do we think was part of this think tank?
One was signed by John Bolton, Francis Fukuyama of End of History fame, Robert Kagan, Zalmay Khalilzad, Bill Kristol, Donald Rumsfeld, and our old friends Richard Pearl and Paul Wolfowitz.
So what's that, about half? About half of the people in this think tank were, again, I'm just going based off last names here. That it could be more than half for all I know. But I think that's about 4 out of 8 Snickles.
Now, this letter was ignored by the Clinton administration, and it's been said that not even the Bush administration was interested in regime change in Iraq. In fact, prior to taking office, not one high-ranking member of the Bush administration, with the exception of Donald Rumsfeld, ever advocated for this war. But then...
You think maybe it was an inside job, boys? You think that Bush, in the run-up to his election, having never mentioned, regime change, Israel, Iraq, any of these, fucking Dune Coon world powers or whatnot, didn't mention them in the slightest in the run-up to the election. Then 9/11 happens, and the position conveniently changes. Almost as if 9/11 was orchestrated. Wow, Matt, you are really letting us sit with this. Excellent video. That was, again, the video was, did we fight the Iraq war for Israel? What you don't know, part 1. Cannot wait for part 2. Have no idea when it's going to come out. There's the link. Guys, make sure to give my boy Matt a like, a sub. You think I go hard on politics? Motherfucker goes hard on politics, and it is excellent. Dude does a great job. Make sure to like the video. Make sure to give my boy a sub. He is a criminally underrated channel. Has some very great guests on. Guests way better than me. I've been on the show twice, but I'm a fucking plebeian when it comes to this stuff. No, he has on actual, real political analysts and stuff. So give my boy Matt a shout out. That was a great video. Can't wait to see part 2. And as a friendly reminder, in case you guys are new to the channel for whatever reason, fuck Israel and fuck the Muslims. I don't like any of them. Glass the whole Middle East for all I give a fuck. Akatsuki trades with the 2-banger. Hey, I'll stay at homie. How is everyone? Well, I was an hour late to my own show today to tell you how I am. But that being said, we're doing a-okay. Think of the two banger, brother. Bring him on. Matt, I don't know if Matt's been on my show. I've been on his a couple times, but I don't know if Matt's been on mine since I don't usually do guests nowadays. Yeah, many questions, no answers. That was a horrible ending. I think it was a very powerful ending. Yeah, Foul Boss is good work. Yeah, dude, absolutely. It was excellent work. It was an interesting video. Like I said, guys, Matt is Foul Ball. I keep saying Matt, Foul Ball, they're the same person. Foul Ball here, criminally under sub. Make sure to give him all of his flowers. Shout out, homie. Thank you for sending it to me. Can't wait for part 2. Alrighty. So let's switch gears. So it's been the first 40 minutes talking about how much we hate the Jews and hate the Muslims, which all remains true. One thing we all love, video games. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the remake culture. Gaming has become addicted to selling us our childhood. I couldn't agree more. We live in a very remake-happy time. For the longest time, we were in a very remake-happy culture when it came to movies. And the infection of remake culture into video games and selling you your own, basically, gaming Viagra, which is the nostalgia boner pills that are remakes, is one of the biggest tragedies in the modern gaming industry. Let's see what my boy MugenLord has to say. I was going to do a video on this myself, and that's how he did one, and I thought I'll be lazy and just react to his instead.
The gaming industry had discovered that it's much easier to sell our childhood than it is to sell new ideas. Remakes once felt like special opportunities to revisit important games. They allow a new generation to experience a classic that might have been inaccessible, outdated, or trapped on older hardware. Nostalgia has become the most safest, most exploited business model within the gaming industry today. And
that is just as much to blame on these gaming companies as is on ourselves. Is our nostalgia being exploited? Yes. However, are the people to blame because they keep buying this shit? They do not exercise their spending power with any amount of caution. Obviously, the gaming industry is going to keep doing what works, so to speak. And if they see these remakes and reimaginings are printing fucking money, why wouldn't they keep doing it? Because gamers have no willpower.
What does that say about the current state of gaming? I've already discussed that AAA development costs has pretty much ballooned and pretty much skyrocketed to astronomical levels. Games are now becoming much more expensive. They require larger teams. They require much more advanced technology. And of course, when it comes to the marketing campaign, they pretty much has doubled to triple in cost.
Now let's talk about this real quick. Because he's talking about the development costs of these, and then Anthony Way says it's easy to do. It's actually not. That's the thing, is it's not easy to do. These reimaginings they're not ports, they're not remasters, they're not upscales. They are new games built from the ground up. So it's actually not easy. It's just as difficult as making a brand new game because you're building it from the ground up, which is why it's even worse. This time, money, effort could all be going into new IP. It's like Pragmata. Pragmata was a new IP. It sold pretty damn well, according to Capcom. It didn't do numbers close to any of the Resident Evil remakes. Why? Because people keep buying the fucking remakes because they're coasting on nostalgia. It's a sad state of affairs. That being said, that Pragmata, new IP, sold well. The same amount of work goes into building a Resident Evil remake on the RE engine as it did going into Pragmata, because both are built from the ground up with entirely new assets compared to the original. It is kind of sickening.
And some of these games cost hundreds of millions of dollars before they even hit the store shelves. So when that much money is on the line, then these developers are going to take less risk. And instead of investing in unfamiliar ideas that could actually fail, they return to an established franchise that already has an audience. Why take a chance on something new when you can just remake a game that millions of people already love? The characters are already established. The world already exists. The original game has already proven that there's an audience that is willing to spend money on it. Thus, remakes and remasters has become one of the surest ways for publishers to see a return on their investments. Just look at this console generation for a perfect example. The PS5 launched in 2020, and we're nearly 6 years into this console's life cycle. And although that the PS5 had delivered more exclusives than the Xbox Series X and S, its first
That's the bar is so low, it's on the ground. That is not saying much.
first party still feels considerably small than what we experienced during the previous generations of PlayStation. And when you take a deeper look at what we actually received, a noticeable portion of this generation has been built around
Final Fantasy Tactics Remake, Halo Remake, Final Fantasy Remake, Tony Hawk 3 and 4 Remake, Silent Hill 2 Remake, Sonic Shadow Generations. That's actually a remaster, not a remake, but fair enough. Tomb Raider 1 to 3, that's a remaster. Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, pretty sure that one is in fact a remake. I don't know if the Metal Gear Solid Collection series are remakes or remasters, but Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater remake. Did they remake? No, remaster. Okay, so Horizon. The reason I'm bringing this up, I do think it's important to denote the difference between a remake and a remaster. Remasters obviously just being ports with quality of life changes, some visual touch-ups, but at the end of the day, the code base is the same and it's not built from the ground up. Remakes are actually built from the ground up, but I mean, the point he's making is still relevant regardless whether he's got some remasters on here or not. Evan with a 5-banger. Game companies need to learn the same lessons as Hollywood. Stop spending so damn much making the game and making money is practically impossible. So it's a twofold problem, because I agree with this. Game companies do, in fact, need to learn this same lesson. Budgets, bloat, it is all absolutely out of control. I would argue actually even worse than Hollywood. However, it is the gamers subsidize this bad behavior because they actually buy these fucking games. It's, at least the remakes they do. They shouldn't, but they do. So the gaming industry can get away with it in a way that Hollywood can't because dumb motherfuckers are actually buying this slop. Shouting for the 5-banger, homie. This is for you.
Like, I don't think humans were meant to see sissy hypno inflation compilations.
But hey, by the way, did you know that I suck dick as a man? I lick the ass of other men. But really quick, I lick the balls of a man.
Licking the balls of them fucking corpo gamer companies. Hypno, how dare you? Shout out. Thank you for the 5-banger, homie.
Remakes, remasters, collections, ports, and revivals of games from the past. Growing up, seeing a classic game completely rebuilt was rare. It felt like an event. Like, you didn't even expect a major game from your childhood to receive a remake. So when one was announced, it actually felt special. You didn't expect every major game from your childhood to receive a remake. So when one was announced, it actually meant something. Now, nearly every major game release or showcase includes another remake, remaster, collection, or a franchise revival. We had to reach this point where the surprise is no longer there when it comes to a classic game returning. Now the surprise is trying to figure out which one they're going to sell us next in terms of a remake or a remaster. And the most
what a sad state of affairs. That's such a brilliant sentence, right? It's not, are we going to get a remake or remaster? It's what one is next. And that's just fucking sad. It is creative bankruptcy at its finest.
Most egregious of them all is actually Naughty Dog themselves. During the PS5 generation, Naughty Dog remade the original Last of Us. Then they remastered The Last of Us Part 2, despite the game originally releasing on the PS4 in 2020. And then they also brought Uncharted 4 and Uncharted The Lost Legacy to the PlayStation 5 through the Legacy of Thieves collection. However, Naughty Dog still hasn't released a completely new built from the ground up game exclusive for the PS5. Think about that for a
Now, to be fair, that's actually a blessing in disguise, because does anybody want to see a modern Naughty Dog game? We've got Intergalactic Heretic Prophet coming out, and that game itself is heretical. Needless to say, I'm kind of okay with the fact that Naughty Dog hasn't put out anything new.
Second, one of PlayStation's most important studios has spent the majority of this generation repackaging The Last of Us and Uncharted. These are great games. Don't get me wrong. Well, part 2 is debatable. I am not trying to take anything away from their quality, but how many times are we going to be sold the same experiences? How many different versions of The Last of Us do we actually need before Naughty Dog finally gives PlayStation 5 owners something to...
One of the funny thing about the Naughty Dog stuff, because Javine says Naughty Dog is dead to me. The funny thing about Naughty Dog, and mind you, I'm not advocating for this. I don't want this to happen. Me and Atreus have gone rounds on this. I love Jak and Daxter. To me, the height of Naughty Dog is Jak and Daxter. Yeah, I wouldn't want a motherfucking Jak and Daxter remake. I wouldn't. I don't want modern Naughty Dog to touch Jak and Daxter. But the irony is that if any of their games were worthy of a ground-up remake, it would be the Jak and Daxter games, because those are locked to the PS2. Well, I mean, not locked, on the PS3 as well. But my point is that they are old, outdated. I don't like calling them outdated. They hold up brilliantly. But they're older games that uneducated individuals would view as outdated, having never played them, just looking at the visuals and stuff, despite the fact they hold up brilliantly. That's the sort of game that you would think would, and with a caveat, should get a remake. And those aren't the games that Naughty Dog's touching. Now, again, that's actually a blessing in disguise. But the point is, the games that Naughty Dog are remaking aren't even the games that people want remade.
Something completely new. Their next original game is coming, but we are approaching the end of this console's generation before we actually had the opportunity to play it. And me personally, I'm not too thrilled about it. You can actually see my reaction when they first announced that title. And that perfectly represents one of the biggest problems within AAA game development. New games take long and cost so much money to create that remakes and remasters are being used to fill enormous gaps between these releases.
Now, again, he's wrong here. Remasters, yes, but remakes take just as long and just as much money.
The thing is, publishers know exactly how to trigger older gamers like myself. Play some familiar music, show us iconic locations, revealed a new redesigned version of the characters we all grew up with, announce an expensive collector's edition, if they have that nowadays, fill it with items, designs to remind us of how much the original game has meant to us, and then end the trailer with one recognizable line intended to make everyone watching to say, hey, yo, I remember that. It is deliberate emotional marketing. And guess what? It works, because it gets me majority of the time. So I'm not sitting here trying to point the finger, because I also fall victim to this.
I do not fall victim to this 9 times out of 10. Now, I have now and again. I'm not going to pretend I haven't. I fell victim to it for Final Fantasy Tactics. I did. I fell victim to it for Final Fantasy Tactics Evilise Chronicles. But by and large, nah, I see right through this remake culture bullshit.
This too. Look at Ubisoft. They went directly.
Shout out El Murloc with the 2-banger. Capcom does feel like the reimaginings are fillers. Well, it's not even that they're fillers. I mean, maybe they feel like they're fillers to you. To me, it doesn't feel like they're fillers. It feels like they are replacements, which is even fucking worse. Trying to replace the classics that were created, standing on the shoulders of giants to replace their work, that's even worse than it being filler. But I get what you're saying. Thank you for the 2-banger.
Into their nostalgia bag and decided to remake Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Why Black Flag? Was because Ubisoft know how many gamers still consider it one of the greatest games in the entire franchise. They know people miss Edward Kenway. They know people remember sailing across the Caribbean while the crew sang their songs across the sea. Ubisoft did not just convince us to care about the world, because we already had an emotional connection to it. And commercially, that decision paid off. And as much we want to blame these publishers, we also have to accept some of the responsibility, which
Thank you. I'm so glad he's saying this. Yes, gamers are, not only are gamers part of the problem, gamers are a larger part of the problem, because gamers are the ones paying for this. If they collectively decided to stop paying for this, then the companies would have no recourse but to change course and do something fucking different.
I've mentioned before that I fall victim of this as well. We are partially to blame for this. We complain about the lack of originality in the gaming industry, but when it's time to actually spend our money, familiar franchises remain easier purchases than unknown ones. Publishers are responding to our behaviors. And honestly, I understand why. These companies are asking us to spend $70 or $80 on a single game. That is pretty much a steep price, especially when you don't know whether that this game will be good, complete, or properly polished at launch. We've seen so many games released unfinished, filled with technical problems, or completely failed to deliver on its marketed promise. So if you're standing in the store or you're scrolling through the digital marketplace, which game feels like the safer purchase? The completely new intellectual property that you pretty much know nothing about, or something that you already know?
If you know nothing about it, that is a failure on the marketing team. Like why did Pride Matter blow up? I'm going to use Pride Matter a lot as an example, I guess. Why did Pride Matter blow up? Because it had brilliant fucking marketing. Like, look, y'all know me. I got a hate boner for Capcom. But Pride Matter had some brilliant fucking marketing. And that game blew up because of it. Brand new IP, did gangbuster numbers for brand new IP. If you as the customer don't know if the thing you're going to purchase is good, or at least looks like it'll be good, it will get the sell on you, that is a failure of the marketing.
Like Resident Evil, or you already know Final Fantasy VII, you already know Metal Gear Solid 3, Halo, The Legend of Zelda, and Persona 3. That familiarity makes remakes feel like a safer purchase. Publishers understand that. They know nostalgia reduces the amount of convincing they need to do. But even after choosing the supposedly safer option, we're still not receiving the definitive experience that a remake is actually supposed to provide. Many modern remakes fail to give us the definitive versions from games that they're trying to rebuild.
Correct.
Some of these remakes remove locations, mechanics, and story content that existed in the original version. Perfect example is Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. Clearly,
the worst remake in the history of time. Go off, son. Let's go.
There was something missing from that, because in the original Resident Evil 3, we had locations, choices, encounters, and additional content that were either condensed or completely removed from the remake itself. The remake looked better. It may have played better from a modern control perspective, but it also offered a smaller experience than the game that is supposed to replace or become.
And there's the key word, replace. These people want replacements. They want to replace our childhood and pretend they're selling you something to remember it. Like, he hit the nail on the head. You explain to me how a game that came out in 1999, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, and then the remake that comes out in like 2020, I think. 2020. So 22 years later, how's the game that came out 22 years later on the PlayStation fucking 4 have less content than the PS1 alternative? That is greedy, corporatist, nostalgia boner bullshit.
Come that definitive experience. Then you have remakes that take so much creative liberties that they become completely different experiences. Like a perfect example of the Final Fantasy VII remake. It isn't merely a modern recreation of the original game. It actually changes the story. It expands Midgard sections of the original into an entire release. However, it also means that Final Fantasy VII remake can't be that definitive experience. Then you also have like Persona 3 Reload. It rebuilt Persona 3 with modern presentation, improved combat, and several quality of life changes, but it launched without every major piece of content associated with the previous version. So once again, the remake failed to bring every major part of that game together into one definitive package. And on
never meant to make a gamer cry.
The opposite end, you have remakes that remain so faithful to the original that you begin questioning why did they need to rebuild this in the first place. And when
well, okay, there's times where I think that's justified, and I've explained this, and y'all are gonna hear it again. You're probably gonna get real good goddamn tired of these examples. But look, the Spyro trilogy, the original Spyro trilogy, that shit was on the PlayStation 1, and it has PlayStation 1 ass graphics. Now, I love those. I'm nostalgic for them. I think they look good. In fact, the original Spyro trilogy holds up amazingly well. But when they did the remake and rebuilt it from the ground up, it is identical to the originals, minus modern graphics, quality of life things, auto saves that more so than the previous. Completely re-recorded music, but still with the option to play the original Stuart Copeland music, which is how I play the game. Like that is how a remake should be done. I think you can justify it when the games are 25, 30 years old.
Say 1-to-1. I like my 1-to-1s, but they don't even try to even expand on what's actually there. and
don't
then
think
still
need
charge
to.
you full price for it. A remake can change so much and abandon what the
and he said and charge full price for it. That's another point. The Spiral Reignited trilogy, when it came out, and I assume the Crash Insane trilogy as well, but I'm not sure, did not sell for full MSRP. Spiral Reignited trilogy on launch was $40. In an era when gaming was $60, because they hadn't quite made the jump to $70 yet, an era when default MSRP for new games was $60, the Spiral Reignited trilogy was $40.
original resonated with when it came to gamers, but it can also change so little that it feels like a prettier version of something that we already own. So barely attempting to introduce the quality of life improvements needed to meet modern standards. Others change character designs, dialogue, mechanics, or content because developers want the game to align to modern expectations. And sometimes content is removed or censored, preventing the remake from becoming that definitive version of that experience. Yet, regardless of how much or how little work is done, we are frequently charged full price. These games are being sold for $70 or $80 because publishers know that the title alone carries value. Instead of feeling like a passionate attempt to preserve important moments in gaming history, some of these remakes feel like products being pushed through an assembly line. Games absolutely need...
Not some of them, 99% of them. Like I am hard pressed to think of a remake in the last 5 years that justifies its existence.
Needs preservation. Older titles can become unaccessible, trapped in on discontinued hardware, removed from digital storefronts, or increasingly difficult for modern audience to experience. Controls that felt natural 20 or 30 years ago may feel outdated to younger gamers. So
too bad. Get good, scrubs. I was playing the fucking NES in 97. Guys, the NES came out in like 1984 or some shit. Like it was a 13-year-old hardware or something at that point. And I was playing it as a kid and I fucking loved it. All right. I don't give a fuck about making things more accessible for younger gamers. Get good, scrubs, or go play fucking Fortnite, you losers.
Thoughtful remake could solve those problems. It can introduce a classic to an entirely new generation. It can improve outdated mechanics, restore abandoned content, modernize the controls, and preserve the original game's identity while building upon it. But that is what a remake is supposed to accomplish. The problem begins when nostalgia becomes a substitute for creative risks. The remakes has gradually become filler between major releases, something that publishers can use to maintain a franchise schedule while the next completely new game remains in development. Capcom even has said this on record that the
Capcom wants to release a Resident Evil every year and sees remakes as the way to make that happen. Fuck this company, bro. Fuck this company and the horse they rode in on. I fucking hate Capcom.
Company wants to maintain a yearly release schedule for Resident Evil. However, create a new Resident Evil game every year would be extremely difficult. So remakes allow Capcom to pretty much fill in those gaps. From a business perspective, that actually makes perfect sense. The remakes keep Resident Evil relevant. They generate revenue.
Yeah, except for Resident Evil was never irrelevant. Resident Evil is the highest selling IP under Capcom's umbrella, and it has been for years. It and Monster Hunter go back and forth, but the point is, and it has been for years. Resident Evil was never irrelevant. This isn't about keeping them relevant. This isn't even about being a good business decision. I mean, like it objectively is for Capcom, but they're the exception, not the rule, because people keep buying these dog shit ass remakes for whatever reason. But by and large, the idea, like, oh, let's do a remake every year and dilute the pool of games, dilute the originals, is not a good business strategy for the most part. Capcom is the exception, not the rule. If the remakes didn't change the story, I wouldn't care. You know, when they remake RE5, that is the biggest issue I have, is the change to the lore, characters, story, canon, the retcons, all of that. Right now, I don't like going over the shoulder either. Like, hey, look, you want to make your modern games over the shoulder? Go for it. Your remakes should still be fucking fixed camera angles. That's neither here nor there.
They introduce older games to a new audience, and that money can be reinvested into future projects. Capcom has also produced some great remakes, so I'm not going to pretend that the strategy hasn't produced any quality games. But as a gamer, it also confirms exactly what I've been talking about. The remake is no longer a rare celebration. It has become part of the content pipeline, something designed to maintain a near yearly release schedule and ensure that the franchise never disappears from the public conversation. Remakes have become filler content instead of something created exclusively to preserve or reintroduce an important game. And I have a feeling that this same approach is going to happen with Nintendo when it comes to The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time.
I did an entire video on the Ocarina of Time situation, and I got fucking roasted for it, and everybody that roasted me, fuck you, you're wrong, I'm right, the game is gonna be slop.
And don't get me wrong, nostalgia has really hit me hard with this. I'm really excited for Code Veronica Remake, and I'm damn sure excited.
I love you, MugenLord, but what an idiot.
For The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, because it hits that nostalgia. It's something that shaped my childhood growing up as a kid, when I definitely want to see how it will be approached on modern hardware. I want to see Hyrule completely reimagined and stay faithful to the actual source of the original.
But you can't do both. Here's the thing, MugenLord. You can't do both. You can't reimagine and stay faithful. The idea, they are incompatible with one another. The moment you reimagine something, it ceases to be faithful. Like, this to me is, it's so weird to hear him say this because it's a contradiction. Because he was saying earlier how he didn't like the Final Fantasy VII remakes because they're not remakes, they're reimaginings. Then how can you turn around and say, but I want to see it for Zelda? That doesn't make sense. Now, again, you can add more side quests. You can add more, like landmarks to Hyrule Field. You can expand the story, but that's not reimagining. Reimagining, you're changing the story, you're changing the characters, you're changing the canon, you're changing the lore because you are reimagining new insert things here that will inherently change the original. Just adding additional content and reimagining the existing content are very different things. Shout out to Kazuki the Trace with the 2-banger. Why Mugen's hair so luscious? He a vampire, bro. Mugen might be the only motherfucker on this platform with hair better than mine. It's crazy.
No game and respect it in that sense. And I do want to hear that music that the original game has welled up inside of me ever since I was young, playing it on the N64. I want to experience those dungeons in modern visuals and everything. All of it sounds great, but that excitement comes with some concerns. Will these games receive the time and care and the respect that it deserves? Will the developers preserve what made the original specials while making the necessary improvements?
First of all, there are no necessary improvements. Ocarina of Time is one of the, if not greatest, games of all time. There are no improvements to be made. The original holds up brilliantly. If you're, it looks blocky, fuck you. Fuck you. Graphics don't make a game good. All right, there's a reason Super Mario Bros. For the NES still holds up beautifully to this day. Fuck you. But also, no, because the moment you start changing things, the moment you put in the quote-unquote time and effort to improve upon perfection, you are going to fail because you can't improve upon perfection.
Will they restore content, improve outdated mechanics, and create definitive versions of these classics? Or will they remove content, take unnecessary liberties, and push the game off an assembly line because they know for a fact the name itself will allow them to sell millions? That is the conflict that publishers are exploiting. Part of me understands exactly what they are doing, but that nostalgia gamer inside of me still wants to see these games return. This leads to a much larger concern.
Artemis Entreri, I have platinumed on, well, it's not like a platinum on Steam, you know what I mean? Flesh Made Fear. Flesh Made Fear was one of the best games I played last year. It was one of my favorite games of 2025. I fucking loved Flesh Made Fear.
If every generation continues to recycle the same Zelda, Final Fantasy, Resident Evil, Halo, Metal Gear experiences, are we creating enough new classic for younger gamers to remember 20 years from now? What games from this generation will become the Ocarina of Time? What will become their Final Fantasy VII? What will become their Metal Gear Solid? What new works or new worlds or characters and experiences are being created for them? Or they're simply being sold polished versions of ours? There's nothing wrong with preserving the past. Gaming history matters. And
I agree with him. There's nothing wrong with preserving the past. I think things like the Spyro Reignited trilogy and Crash Insane trilogy did, in fact, do just that. But you're not preserving the past because preserving means keeping as is. So you can't preserve the past when you are altering the past and pretending the past didn't happen. You are sweeping the past under the rug and pretending this is how it's always been. And yes, Expedition 33, 100%. Expedition 33 will be the Final Fantasy 7 or whatnot for the generation in 10 to 20 years. 100%.
The industry greatest experiences deserve to remain accessible, but preservation and repetition are not the same thing. At some point, the industry has to create something new, something that doesn't rely on our memory to convince us that it matters. Because if every publisher continues retreating into the safety of established franchises, what games are we creating for the future? At some point, I have to ask myself, are we living through one of the greatest eras of preservation, or has gaming industry simply become addicted to selling us our childhood? So that pretty much wraps this up. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment sections below. What do you think about this whole conundrum that we in? Like, yes, I love this game to be preserved and be accessible to us, and remakes do sound like a good idea. I always like to see my classes be brought into modern times with modern graphics and quality of life changes as far as the UI and its controls, but there also has to be a limit, and the developers also have to pay respect to what the original had delivered. That may
but quality of life means something different to gamers than it does developers. Quality of life to gamers is like, yo, this game came out in 1996 when 3D gaming was new and the camera was dog shit. Quality of life would be like improving the camera control. To devs, quality of life is like, let's add yellow fucking paint to everything.
Us fans to begin with, instead of giving the new generation a neutered version of what the original had to offer. And as I said before, like, what do the new generation have? They can say that, hey, this is our Ocarina of Time. This is our Metal Gear. This is our classic of that within the next.
Why did he say Metal Gear and throw up an image of Kingdom Hearts? What the fuck, Mugen? That was a terrible edit.
10 to 20 years. Like, what do they actually have, you know, compared to all of the gems that we can constantly recount experiencing? Like I said, I'll be 40 next year, so I've been through a whole lot when it comes to gaming in general. So there's a lot of classics that I have, but what about the new generation? So I definitely need your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you think that this trend is going to continue going into the next
It is going to continue because it's the only thing they can fucking do at this point.
Generation of games that we're going to constantly get remasters, remakes, and collections? Or do you think we're going to experience a new renaissance of gaming as far as new ideas and take?
So we're actually experiencing a new renaissance of ideas right now. It's just happening in the indie scene. That's the thing, is it's happening in the indie scene. The vast majority of games I played this year and had the most fun with have been indie games.
In that risk again, or do you think there's going to be a crash that's going to allow that reset to bring back that creativity once again? So if you like this video, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe button for more gaming content here on this channel. This is MugenLord signing off. I'll see you game fiends later. Peace out.
Excellent video from a boy. He had some issues in there that I completely disagree with. By and large, it was a very good video. MugenLord always puts out great videos. He's got a very nuanced take on video games, which I truly appreciate. I just dropped the link in the chat. Make sure you guys give it a like, a sub, the whole nine. Shout out to my boy MugenLord. Excellent video. Yellow paint thing was handy for Mirror's Edge when you were constantly running around, had to make snap decisions. Yeah, but yellow paint as a visual tool for something like that is different than it being a hand-holding device because people are too fucking stupid to figure out how a game works on their own. All right, let's switch gears for a bit. I have another gaming story to talk about, but I want to make sure before we wrap, not that we're wrapping, I mean, we've only been going an hour. I've got to hold my DualShock at 6:30, so I want to make sure to talk about this. We haven't talked about the Vic Mignogna situation yet. Haven't talked about it. Crunchyroll employees want the voice actor to die after constant harassment. Now, one of the biggest culture war events in my lifetime has been the Kick Vic and I Stand With Vic movements. I've obviously been ardently pro Vic Mignogna. I've had the pleasure of hanging out with Vic Mignogna for about 3 fucking hours just out in the real world, not in any sort of like con setting or whatnot. Dude is a gem. He is a beautiful human being. We're going to go over this because the level of harassment and hatred and vitriol that he receives is completely and utterly unjustifiable. Let's go.
It's that there is major voice actors within the English dubbing community that are threatening fellow voice actors from even being shown or communicating with Vic, the voice actor of Edward Elric of Full Metal Alchemist. Now, for those that have no idea who Vic is and his past controversies, I want to do a very, very brief rundown because I want to talk about the stuff that literally just happened less than a week ago. So basically, Vic is someone that came under fire with a lot of controversy many, many years ago, almost a decade at this point, and there was a lot of people that were doing the hashtag Kick Vic. And then you had the hashtag I stand with Vic. And more or less, there was a lot of people that were accusing him of false allegations and stuff, that he is a horrendous person, that he has
proven false, by the way. Proven false allegations.
Sexually harasses people, all sorts of stuff. And basically, there was a lot of false allegations that were never proven true. And more or less, it ruined his life. It ruined his career, and there's been a lot of damage that he's still facing to this very day, which is why I'm even making this video, because new stuff has happened now literally in the last week. But the point here is that Vic has been under fire for a very long time with people within the anime industry.
And yet, even though his career has slowed down, the fan adoration never has. Vic Mignogna goes to signings, goes to cons, goes to events, and the lines are through the roof. Bro is making bank on autograph sales and pictures, let me tell you. Like, dude is killing it in that regard because the fans knew it was bullshit. The fans have stood by Vic, and nothing has changed.
English voice acting community, for clarification, from Funimation's group, and then now technically Crunchyroll, they are trying their hardest for over a decade to basically get this man to kill himself or to just completely run away and give up voice acting altogether. That is what they have been trying to do to this man for basically.
Did he do a Dragon Ball Z voice? Yes, he is the original Broly. Vic Mignogna is the original Broly. He's Edward Elric. He's the main dude from our high school host club, Senpai. I'm blanking on his name, but like he is arguably the most famous English voice actor of all time and one of the only ones with actual talent.
Decade. And now we have evidence that the same voice actors that have spread these false allegations, have spread rumors, gotten their fans and groupies to basically pile on top of Vic to ruin his life, they now are threatening fellow voice actors, potentially with career-ending threats, if they don't fall in line and distance themselves away from this man. You don't believe me? Let's get into this. Let's just let Vic explain himself, because he opened up in a very personal way at Anime Matsuri, an anime convention that a lot of people going to the convention were really excited to be able to see, not just.
And big ups to Anime Matsuri. Anime Matsuri has consistently, even after all the backlash and everything, brought Vic back as a guest for several years. Anime Matsuri don't give a fuck about the accusation against Vic. A, because they're good, smart business owners and know he draws crowds and he sells tickets and they're a business and that's their fucking job, is to draw crowds and sell tickets. But also, they just don't give a shit about the controversy because it's irrelevant. Like, there's no cancel culture agenda. Anime Matsuri is brilliant. Elmer Bob with the two-banger. Vic gets this, but Damon Mills, who's past, is okay. To be fair, a lot of the Damon Mills stuff has been debunked. The vast majority of it. I don't like defending Damon Mills. I don't. But a lot of that has been debunked. So I'm very cautious when it comes to throwing around the accusations about Damon Mills because so many of them did, in fact, get debunked. There's one of the videos on my channel, I got very much corrected. It was an early video I did on the channel. It was an anti-Damon Mills video. And I did not do the proper research that I should have done. And I had to have the record fucking corrected for me. So needless to say, there is far more to the Damon Mills story than people oftentimes on our side of the aisle really look into or go on about. That being said, shout out, thank you for the two-banger, homie. Truly appreciate you.
Vic there that voices Edward Elric, but also Maxie, which is this woman down here that voices Alphonse Elric. You know, the two Fullmetal Alchemist brothers, the Elric brothers. We were going to see the two voice actors from the English dub being able to be in the same room, which has been like a decade plus at this point, being able to be in the same room with each other for the fans, for Fullmetal Alchemist fans, to be able to ask them questions and just, you know, feel like they're back in the early and late 2000s. And that obviously did not happen because Maxie canceled her appearance. And basically what Vic even elaborates, which I will show the clip and everything, he explains that she canceled because apparently within her contract she signed for Anime Matsuri that she was not supposed to be in attendance with Vic whatsoever. However, I have got...
This is some bitch-made beta bullshit. There were some accusations a decade ago that never fucking went anywhere. You're supposed to be in this shit for the fucking fans. Let's even say it was true, right? Let's say that Vic was blacklisted for all, you know, XYZ reason. If you can't shut the fuck up for a weekend, sit there and be polite and cordial just to give something for the fucking fans, you are a worthless troglodyte. Absolute disgusting loser behavior.
A hold of the contract, by the way, and it is this. This is her contract that she signed with her agent that Vic even talks about within the clip I'm going to show, but you can see that it's her name right here, Maxie, John, the promoter and all that, and you can just see everyone associated at Anime Matsuri's event, and you can see what's in the labels, the rules, everything and all that, autographs, whatever, travel standards, and you can even see the signatures as well from John and Maxie here. Basically, if you go through this contract, you can pause and look at it yourself. There is no mention at all within this contract that she is not supposed to see Vic. However,
especially considering she never had any accusations against him. Monica Rial, Jamie Marchi, and Mars Girl? Yeah, Mars Girl were like the three big accusers, none of which ever provided any actual evidence, by the way. Monica Rial, Jamie Marchi, Mars Girl, none of them provided any evidence. Like, this was his co-worker, his co-star, the actor that played his brother for fucking years. There's never been, to my knowledge, that I've ever seen, bad blood or beef between them. It was purely, this actor lied about the contract, couldn't stomach doing anything with the fans, but in all reality, it's because the internet bullied them into it. And I use the word bullied lightly because, let's be real, it's the fucking internet. People are always talking shit. Just turn the shit off, mute, block, whatever. If you can't take criticism or attacks on the internet, get the fuck out of the public eye, you loser.
Excuse for the reason why that she didn't appear in Anime Matsuri was because they broke the contract. That, you know, basically they allowed Vic to be at Anime Matsuri when her contract said that he shouldn't be there. But this is full-blown lies, obviously, not just from the official paperwork, but also because following up to months before the event even happened, you had Maxie and Vic actually in communication with the promoter, John, and everyone, the agent, to basically make a promotion for Fullmetal Alchemist, for the two voice actors to be side-by-side at a panel, and people were excited. So there was a lot of great communication between everybody. Everybody was happy. Everybody was excited. And from the way Vic describes it himself within the clip, I will show it, don't worry, he describes that everything was great. Everything was fine. There was nothing wrong whatsoever. But then literally a week and a few days leading up to the event, everything went to shit, and basically the boss calls came in from English voice actors in the industry that have a problem with Vic, higher up people within the industry that basically did the boss call and probably threatened Maxie that if she appears there, it will probably be career ending, because there's no other reason why.
The English dub industry, the anime dub industry in English is so incestuous and based on nepotism. I can't understand in good conscience people that actively root for English dubs of anime. I really can't. Katsuki Atreus, the two banger. I despise the way he says alchemist. I haven't even really been paying attention to how he says alchemist, but now I'm going to be listening to it actively. Shit. Thanks, homie. Appreciate the two banger.
that she would do something like this after being in such friendly terms with him for months leading up to it, and then just completely sabotage the relationship and basically go on record with a straight up provable lie that apparently in her contract that she wasn't supposed to be seen with him, when it's clear that that was not in her contract at all. So there is a lot of excuses, there's a lot of deceit, there's a lot of lies, and it shows just the outright snake-like behavior going on
Johnny Young Bosch. I'm not a fan of him personally.
Behind the scenes that many people, the fans of anime itself, are completely unaware of. So let's actually get into the clip. So this is the Vic panel at Anime Matsuri 2026. This literally came out 7 days ago. This video only has 700 views, which is just insane, by the way. I will link this full video in the description, but I want to show like the first 10 or so minutes of this because I think it's very important to kind of get the point across of what Vic is saying and what actually happened.
This is true, by the way. This all started because Vic was up for a promotion. Yes, for those of you guys that don't know the history, Vic was up for his, I think it was his first, I could be wrong, I'm pretty sure it was his very first director role in the anime, because a lot of the anime voice actors in English are also the directors of the anime. Again, it's a very incestuous business. Vic was up for a director spot. Chris Sabat didn't like that, and the rest is history. Shout out. Thank you for the 2-banger, homie.
Happened, the timeline of events, and then we're going to discuss it as it goes on. So let's play the clip.
So I want to share something with you guys right out of the gate. It's kind of serious. And then we'll spend the rest of the time talking fun stuff. All right? Rather than talk fun and then leave it on a serious note, which is not near as fun as leaving on a high note, right? As many of you know, we had a pretty exciting last-minute announcement for Anime Matsuri for Maxie Whitehead, who played Alphonse in Full Metal. Did you guys see that announcement? No. Well, I want to share with you guys what happened. It's important to us, all of us, that the truth be told. You want the truth, right? I mean, people want to be told the truth.
Yes, sir, please.
I have always, let me just preface by saying, I have always loved Maxie. When we did Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood and Aaron was no longer able to play the role because he had grown up, Maxie stepped in and did an amazing job, and she and I have...
For those that need clarification, basically Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is where Maxie voices Alphonse. The original Full Metal Alchemist had a different Al as a VA because, as he said, they grew up. So they changed the voice actor, the English dub voice actor with Brotherhood, just to make sure we're all on the same page.
Always been dear friends. She doesn't do a lot of events, and I haven't seen her in probably 10 plus years. Her booking agent told me that she would be really interested in doing an event. So I contacted some of my favorite people, John and Denise, and I said, y'all, this could be really cool. Elric brothers together again, right? And John, being the awesome dude that he's, like, let's make this happen. So they reached out to Maxie's booking agent, who represents her, of course. And there were some challenges with whether or not she was going to be available first for a couple of months. We were talking about this. And there was no question.
So I want to make sure I clarify this. He was in contact with the booking agent for Maxie months leading up to the event, which means that she would have been well informed of it because of scheduling and all that. So this was not something that just came out of nowhere. This wasn't a last minute.
Well, and again, to add to what Chibi is saying, to my knowledge, Maxie has never said anything negative about Vic, did not weigh in on the Kick Vic stuff. Like, there is, unless someone has a source to prove me wrong, one of the few people in the industry that did not come after Vic. You want someone else who didn't, by the way, just to give you guys a lesson on why Devil May Cry is so fucking cool. Not only did Ruben Langdon not go anti-Vic, he was pro-Vic. Ruben Langdon, voice actor for Dante in Devil May Cry, stuck by Vic's side, base to see.
It's like, you know, drop of, hey, you want to meet up or whatever at a convention. This was many, many months in advance. This was a long time for you to make and decide if there was an issue with Maxie and Vic being in the same room. Basically, everything leading up to this moment, everything seemed A-okay. And obviously, Vic had that impression as well. So let's continue playing.
She told us through her booking agent she had no problem doing any events with me or here or whatever. She was looking forward to it.
I'm pretty sure Todd Habercorn did stick by Vic's side. He and Vic are old friends, but also Todd Habercorn had his own accusations that came out just a few months later. Again, just like Vic, they never actually fucking went anywhere, but yeah.
Suddenly, about a week before the show, before Matsuri, I woke up to a text message from John, and it said, quote, Maxie is coming.
So for those that need clarification who John is, I want to re-show it. John right here is the promoter of the event. You can see it. John. And then Maxie, talent, collected by the associates for personal appearance by talent at Anime Matsuri, the event. So when he says John, he is talking about this person, which in the contract you see is signed. He signs and she signs. That is what he's talking.
So I didn't know that Chuck Huber stuck by Vic's side. I will say that doesn't surprise me. I went to a con many, many years ago where Chuck and Vic actually did like 3 panels together. They were super fucking fun. The two have great chemistry. So I was unaware that Chuck Huber stuck by his side. That is good to see, or good to hear. Because, yeah, they did an awesome, like, 3-day event together that I went to, like, damn near, maybe even over 12 years ago.
Talking about here for clarification.
I was pretty excited, right? Her booking agent, very excited. Her booking agent was like, she's so forward to seeing you, Vic. It's going to be great. And
So her booking agent and her is excited to see him. So I want to also make sure you understand this. This is a week before the event. So this means that there wasn't a long gap to think about it. That means like there was months of talking, and then a week before the event, she's like, sure, let's do this. And she's excited. The announcement is made for everybody to see that she is going to be there with Vic. And this obviously became public information where people were in a realization that Vic was in contact with Maxie and she was okay with Vic. This became publicity to where obviously people became aware that there was still conversation happening between the two. So just to make sure we are on the same page or the timeline of events.
I was thinking how cool for the fans. Because if you're a fan of Full Metal Alchemist, you get virtually 0 opportunities to have both the brothers at one place and one time. Might never happen.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened in a very long time. So John and Denise pulled out all the stops. And I'm just telling you guys, they went out of their way. They had things printed. They had banners made. They agreed to all of the requests in the contract. And the contract was signed, and it was a done deal.
So basically, there was promotions made that the booking agent and Maxie and Anime Matsuri, they all agreed with. Everyone agreed with the promotional material that was being made for the event, that people got to see and everything. Basically, there was approval on multiple levels where this event was happening. That just to make sure we're have full clarification, everybody knew the event was happening. Everybody was excited about it. Maxie knew Vic was going to be there. Vic knew Maxie was going to be there. The world knew technically at that time. That's pretty much what was going on. There was complete approval of promotional material as well.
I was excited. I was like, oh, we need to make a special print of just the brothers that doesn't exist anywhere else on Earth for the fans. And everything was great.
And he keeps specifying that right there. For the fans. That's what it's all about. That's what Vic has maintained everything being about since all this happened damn near a decade ago. Is for the fans. And I said earlier and I'll say it again. If you can't shut the fuck... First of all, it doesn't sound like Maxie has any issue with Vic. It's never seemed like Maxie has any issue with Vic. But even if she did, if you can't shut the fuck up for a weekend and do something for the fans, and people are like, well, the higher ups at Crunchyroll or Funimation, these dubbing companies are going to blacklist her. That is not an excuse. I'm sorry. If you're going to be like a voice actor in these anime, and anime always have these messages for like standing up for what's right, and you can't sit there and in the real world stand up for what's right because my career, as if they would blacklist you from the entire industry over a single fucking convention. fuck you. You are scum.
Great. John even made a cool promo image of the two of us. You might have seen it.
Yeah.
And it said, brothers.
He said, I'm assuming that's John saying yeah.
You know, brothers reunion or whatever. That promo image was posted to publicly announce that Maxie was going to be here. And within about 3 hours of that post, John got a phone call from Maxie's agent.
3 hours. I want to put this in perspective. After it became official public knowledge that she was going to be there, in 3 hours, something happened behind the scenes. Think about that.
Well, again, I don't know if it was behind the scenes in terms of like head honchos coming down from the dubbing industry saying if you do this we're blacklisting you, or it was mass amounts of Kick Vic fucking haters just doing an influx of DMs and posts, maybe a combination of both.
You realize how insane that is. Within 3
Hunty-chan, funny story. You say you're jealous of his hair. Very first time I ever met Vic Mignogna. Again, this was at that event with Chuck Huber like 12 years ago. This isn't the time I hung out with him and whatnot. That was separate, but that was way cooler. But very first time I ever fucking met Vic, they were doing a Q&A. And everyone was asking all these questions about anime and stuff, which is fine. But anytime I go to an event, convention, meet voice actors, whatnot, and they do Q&As, I prefer to ask them things that just have nothing to do with anime, just that way they can like talk about other things they might be interested in. Did the same thing with Charles Martinet. And at the time, I was doing a Goku cosplay. So I had a Super Saiyan wig. And so we got to my turn for the Q&A. I asked him how much time he spends on his hair in the morning. And he looks at me. He looks at the Super Saiyan wig and goes, I could ask you the exact same thing. Like, Vic is such a cool dude, bro.
Hours.
Maxie wants to cancel because she's getting pushback from some other voice actors who don't think she should be there with
there. Okay, there it is. Other voice actors. That was the part I was unaware of because I assumed it was because of a fucking hate campaign, but there it is. Other fucking voice actors.
you. Can I just give you a minute to process that? Think about it. Seriously. Maxie, who doesn't do a lot of events, could come here and have had a wonderful weekend meeting hundreds of wonderful people who love her work, make some money to pay her bills, make a great weekend for everybody, right? And a handful of voice
Yes, our resident ex-actor, Foulball, actors as a group suck. And honestly, the level of entitlement from English voice actors specifically. Voice actors walk around like they're king of the fucking hill when most of them, nobody knows who the fuck you are. Because we're looking at the characters you're voicing, the cartoons. When we look at a voice, most people wouldn't know a goddamn voice actor on the street because we don't see your fucking face like we do regular ass actors. Now, again, I think voice acting as a talent is probably more difficult than regular acting because you have to convey everything about these characters via just your voice. You don't get wild gesticulations. You don't get facial, and you don't get to animate your face. You don't get, it's all strictly verbal acting. It's incredible. So fucking difficult. But let's be real. Nobody knows who the fuck you are. So walking over that level of entitlement is disgusting.
Actors who we probably will never know who they are.
We know. If you're aware of Vic's situation, you know who it is. Yeah, you know who it is. Just look it up briefly. You'll instantly discover it. There is a lot of voice actors that are from Funimation's branch and are now with Crunchyroll technically that outright hate this man, and they will slander him at any way they possibly can. That's basically it. And that he's pretty much implying that we don't know, but we do know who it is.
Move on with the two-banger. Vic is, too, a good Christian. A non-person such a coward. I don't know what you mean by that last part, but yes, Vic has been very open about his faith. He's always been open about his faith. Again, Sean Schemmel, the voice of Goku, straight up said that was why he didn't like Vic. Sean's dad was like a preacher, and so he like hates fucking Christianity and hates Christians. Yeah, by the way, if you guys don't know, Goku is a prick. The guy that plays Goku in real life, absolute fucking prick. Masuka Nozawa is the only Goku, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, Vic is very much the type of practice what he preaches Christian, and it is great to see.
Right? Called her and put pressure on her to cancel. I have a lot of feelings about this, and I'm holding them in because I think...
Honestly, I think Vic right now, just looking at the way he's expressing himself here, I think he is almost at the breaking point of where he's just going to let it all out. I think he is, even opening up an event panel like this at Anime Matsuri and talking with everyone just so openly like this takes, honestly, some balls of steel. Because you realize how this could damage like him from ever being in other events, just being, talking about this, because obviously he is using Anime Matsuri to basically talk about this situation, which obviously event panels might like see this entire clip and then they'll be like, oh, we don't want to work with you because we don't want to cause drama or controversy or whatever. But the fact that he still did this regardless.
No, I don't think that'll be the case. Vic draws way too many eyes, ears, crowds, ticket sales, money for autographs and shit. I truly don't think that any like con or whatever. Most cons stopped having Vic anyway because of the accusations. The ones that still do have him, they're not going to just suddenly be like, oh, you talk about this shit publicly, we're not going to have you. Because again, I think like Divine has said, it's not like he has anything left to lose. Yeah, go full Ricky Gervais. Exactly.
I think showcases that he is at that point to where he is tired of being completely quiet. I mean, he's been dealing with this for literally over a decade, pretty much at this point. Like, it's been a very long time. And these people will not leave him alone. And honestly, I don't think they will ever leave him alone. They will probably continue to stalk him.
I totally forgot the Daphne AI Scooby-Doo project. I covered that when it first happened. That was years ago. I totally forgot that was a thing.
And continue to harass him, harass anyone that associates with him, people that try to defend him for the end of days. Because these people obviously are just outright despicable, disgusting animals. They're creatures. They're not really even people in my eyes. And I think that he is at that point, that breaking point as well, by if you just look at this clip, that he is pretty much done himself. I feel like he is only holding himself back here because he is in a professional environment in Anime Matsuri, and he wants to at the very least maintain some form of professionalism. But at the same time, you can see that he wants to let it out. You can really see he wants to say.
As all people say, fans are not there to hear his side. I disagree. He seems smart enough to read the room and give fans what they want. I absolutely agree. If you are a fan of Vic, odds are you are very familiar with all this shit that happened. You don't go from Vic being at every goddamn con in the history of ever to having his appearances effectively cut in half. The Kick Vic story being one of the largest scandals in the history of the internet. Okay, well, goodbye, Cat. All right. Anyway, fans are absolutely there. First of all, you could argue, fans aren't there to hear his side because they already know his side and they agree with it. So they're not there for it, but they definitely appreciate him talking about it because he's actually been pretty tight-lipped about the whole thing. Like he's talked about it a bit, but he's more or less stopped talking about it because it's old, it's in the past. This is something new, it's something fresh, and it was absolutely worthy of bringing up. El Murbot with the two-banger says a New Mexico Comic-Con recently booed him after this. Again, maybe some will. I think the vast majority won't. I think the vast majority fucking won't. And honestly, if a New Mexico Con did it, fuck New Mexico. What do you guys got? Meth? That's it? Fuck New Mexico. Shout out. Thank you for the two-banger, homie.
Say it, but he's just not. But it makes me feel very bad for this man. I wish he would say it, but I understand why he is, especially not at this moment, because obviously the industry is against him. That's the truth. The truth in the heart of the issue here is that Vic is the punching bag of the anime industry. He is. He is someone that has barely anyone in his corner. He honestly is the dog that will continue to get hit on the ground, regardless if he is right or wrong or whatever. He is always the person that has to be hit. And the point here is that he is that target. And the industry, people at the top behind the scenes, they actively allow this to happen because they're infested with people that are pushing agenda or narratives and allowing actively this man to have his entire life ruined for basically false allegations and basically for no reason at all. It is actually insane. It is. And I can't help but just feel bad for this man because it's like this has been an ongoing thing for literally years. Like, it is so terrible what this man is continuously going through. And it's clear that there is a lot of people that are now starting to see the reality of this situation on how unhinged these people are. And I think this situation might cause a lot of people to really see how toxic the English voice acting industry is and how they are people that are not just actively destroying anime by changing meanings and stuff, but destroying other people's careers that do not fall in line. That is what this basically is. And it is disgusting.
And y'all know this has to do with the fact that he's a conservative. Let's be real. Again, with whether it's Hollywood or the anime industry when it comes to like voice acting and shit, it is incestuous and all about leftism. And I know good goddamn well he's conservative because when I hung out with him all those years ago, of the 3 hours that he and I were talking and shit, a solid hour and a half of it was him and I just shitting on Obama. This is how long ago that was, by the way. Obama was still the fucking president. Obama was still the president in office. And we sat there and just talked so much shit on Obama for like an hour and a half. It was funny as fuck. So yeah, part of this is to do with the fact that he is conservative and the anime industry, the voice acting industry are a bunch of fucking lefty nut jobs.
But let's continue. Sorry for pausing so much.
I think it's so immoral that you would stick your...
I did know Chuck Huber stood by his side. I was thinking Kyle Hebert. I'm retarded. I was thinking Kyle Hebert. I knew Chuck Huber stood by his side. I've had Chuck Huber on my fucking show before. I'm retarded.
...nose in another adult professional's business. Maxie's not a child. She's a grown-up. She's a professional in an industry. Could you imagine trying to force someone who you have nothing to do with it? You're not coming here, you're not paying her bills, you know what I mean? To stick your pressure in on her. So she said she wanted to cancel, and we were very concerned. I was looking very forward to seeing her. And then
you can tell by his face. He's mad. Pause.
Maxie sent me a message. And it said, will you please ask Anime Matsuri to take down the promo images with us? Because my contract clearly states, non-negotiably, that I am not to be promoted with you.
Once again, lies. Pause the video and look at these. It's lies. Nowhere in the contract that she did with John, the promoter, going to Anime Matsuri, that it says that she cannot be with Vic at this event. And they were all obviously clear communications that she knew Vic was going to be there.
I love when these motherfuckers get called out for their lies. Like if you're gonna say if you're gonna make a lie about your contract, and that contract gets like released and it can all be read through. Oh, it's delicious. Oh, it's delicious. The lies always come out, son. Always.
Literally months in advance, and even communicated that she was excited to see him a week prior to the event happening. And once again, this all happened 3 hours after the event became public that they were going to be together. So it's very obvious what's going on here. She's doing anything she can to distance herself from Vic because obviously
I can't read the contract because being on the screen that it's on and the way StreamYard works, it is too small for me to really be able to see what it says. I can see like grant of rights. Talent hereby grants to promoter the right and license worldwide, Indian all. You guys can honestly probably see what it says better than me because StreamYard shrinks the images.
Her career is at risk, that she probably got threatened, that she will not probably get a lot of different jobs or roles or called in by anyone because of her association with a person that is the black sheep within the anime English voice acting community. So that is something to take note of. But let's continue.
I sent John that message, and I wrote Maxie back, and I said, I have nothing to do with your contract. I never saw the contract. I have no authority over any of that. But I'm really saddened to hear that. News to me. But I will let them know your request. A very, very short time after that, before anything else happened, Maxie posted something on the internet. Did you see it?
Yeah. Yep.
It said, and I quote, "The contract that I signed with Anime Matsuri expressly stated a clause that said I was not to be promoted alongside Vic Mignogna in any way."
I don't see it. I don't see it, guys. I don't see it. I don't see this clause here. Yeah, I don't see the clause here. I don't see it. Maybe I'm blind. Maybe I can't read. Maybe I'm illiterate. I don't see the clause, guys. I don't see it.
So they breached the contract, and I'm canceling. You want to know the problem? That's a lie. That clause was not in the contract. There was nothing in the contract about not appearing with me. In fact, she approved the promo image.
This has got to be so fucking cathartic for Vic and the fans. This has got to be so fucking cathartic for Vic and the fans because it is demonstrable proof, especially now that the contract is actually out there, what evil snakes in the grass infest this industry. I'm rolling off with the two banger. It's 2026. Why lie? We can look this up. Exactly. Yeah, this isn't 30 fucking years ago. You're correct. It's all out there. The internet's forever, baby.
Guest here. She knew I was going to be a guest here. Obviously, if you're part of Full Metal, it kind of stands, it doesn't take a big leap to know that it's a Full Metal, going to be a Full Metal thing. But that post was put out. I can only assume to cover the real reason. I feel bad, most of all, for you. Some of you that were at the panel yesterday, we talked a little bit about this. There are people in this industry who somehow think it all belongs to them and that they can do whatever they want behind.
This industry belongs to us. This industry would not exist without us. Without people buying, without people buying the fucking statues, right? Without people subbing to Crunchyroll, if you're still subbing to Crunchyroll for some dumbass reason. Without people, being fucking weirdos and buying body pillows with little anime girls on them and shit. Like, this industry would not exist if not for us. So if these voice actors hold this opinion that, we make this, no one's here for you. No one gives a fuck about Sean Schimmel. People give a fuck about Goku. No one, there are very few exceptions. I would say Vic is actually probably one of those exceptions that people are fans of them, the actual person, not the character. And it's no different than fucking superhero movies. No one's a fan of Anthony Mackie. They're a fan of Falcon, not Black in America. Point is, if they hold the belief that they own this industry, they are liars. They are grifters. They are fucking delusional because this industry would crash without us.
Everybody's backs and cause all kinds of trouble. And you, the people.
He's basically saying there's a mafia. That's pretty much what he's saying. That there is a back room, like a behind the scenes mafia in the anime industry that actively will sabotage you and destroy your career if you don't fall in line. That is what this is. Insane. Like it's actually insane.
People who really deserve and have made all of this possible. You'll never know. We'll make up stories. We'll, yes, slippery here and change here and lie here and be dishonest here and change our make promises and then change them here.
You know for a fact he's talking not just about the anime, like the English voice acting community. He's probably talking about in general the industry in the West and how they do changes and stuff like that. It's very clear what he's implying here. It's very clear what he's talking about, the dishonesty, the lies, and everything. He's pretty much talking about what I have been talking about for 2 years now. So keep that in mind.
And the fans will never know. If there are no fans, there is no industry. And I told you guys this yesterday, and I believe this with my whole heart, and I know that John and Denise do as well. They work tirelessly to put on this event for you. We've talked about this at length. The fans are what make it happen. It's not the voice actors. And I'm one of them, and I'll be the first to say it. These shows are not about me. They're not about voice actors. They're not about booking agents. They're about you. And that has been largely overlooked by many people in this industry. So now you know. And that was what I felt was important to share with you. The truth.
Hold on a sec. Let's.
The truth.
Now, mind you, this is the first 10 minutes of an hour and 17-minute panel. So he started off this 10 minutes, the sad story that has to be told because this industry is bullshit. But then, because the fans fucking deserve it, spends the next hour and 7 minutes having a blast with the people that are there to see him talk about anime, talk about the career, talk about the industry, the whole nine. And you know what? They fucking deserved that. Well played.
I think more or less this wraps it up here. I think this really just shows the toxicity within the industry and the amount of lies that's thrown this man's way. That it is so outright deceitful and disgusting, and that this is actively still ongoing. Like, this is not something that happened years ago. It is still actively ongoing right now.
We're live with a two-banger. Bring Me Glee, Monica and Jamie Marchi get near 0 meetups. They do. Monica Rial and Jamie Marchi still get booked at cons, and their lines are basically non-existent. It is hilarious to see. And yes, Vic has huge lines to this day. Shout out. Thank you for the two-banger.
Gross, man. Honestly, I hope that this video does well and that people see this. I would like to have a little bit more support for this man. This man needs a little bit more support. I really hope this video explodes in the algorithm. Will it? I don't know. But hopefully there is some support that goes this man's way. Anyways, be safe. If you enjoy the video, leave a like. Chibi out.
Yeah, y'all know the drill. Here's the link in the chat for you guys. At the end of the day, I've been like what happened to Vic, the whole Me Too stuff, kick Vic, I stand with Vic. All roads lead back to Gamergate. This all leads back to 2014. It all started with Gamergate, and it got exponentially worse. Vic never deserved this. Again, I've met him personally, actually multiple times. He is a super good guy. He has always been a good guy. And to see what would have been something for the fans. A reunion of Ed and Al Elric. Edward and Alphonse Elric together in the same room for the first time in maybe ever, but definitely more than a decade, that would have been an insane thing for the fans. And the fact that this dumb bitch had to back out because the industry at large told her, effectively, we'll blacklist you, and she couldn't stand on principle and do what was right anyway, fuck you. That is scummy, cowardly behavior. But that's your average modern individual, I guess. We got more. But we got more. It's just been a day when it comes to news, folks. This story been going around. In fact, we talked a little bit about it on Monday. We talked a little bit about this on Monday. The truth about Blizzard. Once again, just like with Vic Mignogna, it was all lies.
Hi, guys. It's me again. Today, we're going to talk about the revelations recently that have come out about the Blizzard sexual assault lawsuit, investigation, controversy, and everything that happened in 2021, 2022. Now, for anybody who was living under a rock, then Blizzard went under a completely cataclysmic level of accusations, things ranging from, like assault at the workplace causing an employee to kill themselves, from employees, allegedly stealing breast milk out of the, out of the employee refrigerator, and the implication, of course, is that they're drinking it like Homelander or something. And so all of these,
the lawsuits aren't older, the accusations are older. That's the thing. So when Asmongold says it was happening around in the early 2020s, that's when the lawsuits were happening. The accusations go back to like 2014 or something. Obviously all bullshit, as we found out, and many of us knew from the jump.
Crazy, outlandish, insane accusations. Wow, guys, big surprise. It turns out that a lot of them seem to be bullshit. They found no evidence for many of them. They found that some people retracted their accusations. And if you go through a lot of filings with the California, the department that were investigating them, one of the points of failure that Blizzard had was the fact that they had a bunch of white men that were running.
Wasn't Grums involved in this? No. Grums was not. And again, I got no love for Grums. I've talked a lot of shit on Grums on this channel. I've made entire call-out videos on Grums, but Grums was not involved in this. The internet at large, the Leppies and whatnot, tried to say Grums was involved in this. He had already left Blizzard by the time this stuff had gone down. They tried to say he was involved, but he was not even at Blizzard anymore by the time this all went down.
In the company. Oh my God. Well, if you've got that, it must mean that you're drinking everybody's breast milk too. Well, it sure seems like that's not the case. So anyway, I wanted to talk about kind of and break this whole down and look and contextualize all of it. Like whenever this happened, obviously, I think that it really was the perfect storm for Blizzard because, I mean, at the time.
Nah, Grum's a piece of shit. I mean, I've streamed with him multiple times. I've had DMs with him. I'm going to be that name drop guy. Nah, Grum's a piece of shit. He is a douche canoe. For real.
Shadowlands was a piece of shit. This was the current WoW expansion. Overwatch was garbage. People hated Overwatch. Heroes of the Storm was dead. You would say StarCraft is dead, but that would imply that Blizzard knows what StarCraft even is. And basically every other... Warcraft Reforged came out and it was terrible. Basically, Blizzard, instead of couldn't miss, Blizzard couldn't hit. They were getting every single thing wrong in every single game. And this was coming off of the heels of Battle for Azeroth that was also a piece of shit. So basically, the amount of hostility, animosity, and frustration towards Blizzard was at an all-time high. Like, it was never going to be, any better, any worse than this. Then on top of that, Final Fantasy 14, they finally kind of come into their own. They're now making their games the way that they want to. The game has its own identity. It's no longer derivative or, vestigial WoW systems, and it's really its own game. So you have a lot of people, including me, that moved over and started playing Final Fantasy 14 at the time. And I think what happened is that happened, the sexual assault lawsuit happened, and you have to remember that like 2021, whenever all these things were happening all at the same time, this was like peak woke, right? It was like, this is the point where it was believe all women. Every accusation is a conviction. And, if you ask questions or ask for evidence, you are basically a rapist.
I almost missed that time. Not the way you guys think. I'm not pining for it. That shit was evil. That shit was evil. Obviously, I'm being hyperbolic and being a bit facetious. I'm glad it's gone. But the reason I almost missed it is because people were getting dog walked on the daily. Nowadays, these dumb bitches don't try this shit as often. And I'm glad. Again, I would actually prefer it. But I love waking up every day to see a new accusation, then seeing other people just destroy them for them outright lying. These broads and their fucking believe all women bullshit. Oh, I loved watching them get nuked from orbit when they got caught lying. And it happened almost every goddamn time.
So, and you had an entire culture that was, created around enabling this. And I think that culture, one of the biggest victims to it was Blizzard. Now, one thing I can say too, though, is that I don't think that all of the accusations were fake. I think that I think that sexual harassment, this is going to sound maybe a very black pill thing to say, but I think sexual harassment is sexual assault even is it's an outcome of the human condition. Every company, every group of people, like how many of you guys know somebody and any organization that you've been in where like something weird like this happened? I think that this is just what happens when men and women get together. And when women and women get together, you have different problems. And whenever men and men get together, you have different problems.
Easy fix. Don't hire bitches. Don't hire broads to work in the gaming industry. Easy fucking fix. If you don't hire broads, then this shit won't happen. Now, like, by and large, I do kind of agree with Asmongold saying this stuff is part of the human condition. It's going to happen. Usually if you're part of an Islamic tribe, but...
Like, basically, people have problems, right? The human condition is imperfect. And so I do think that, like, maybe 20, 30%, maybe even 40% of some of the accusations made against Blizzard were accurate. And I think that they were...
No, I don't think it was that high at all. To say 30 to 40%, no. If any of it was real, it's like 12%. Most of it, I agree right here with Patrick Roxas. They claim sexual assault over dirty fucking jokes. I'm sorry, a dirty joke is not a sexual assault. A dirty joke is not sexual fucking harassment. It's just a goddamn joke you didn't like. I bet even 12% is actually really overdoing it, but I'll be liberal with my number for the sake of being liberal with my numbers. It's the only time you guys will catch me being liberal. No. It wouldn't know 30, 40% because half the shit that's being considered sexual harassment isn't sexual harassment in the slightest.
Were true, and I think Blizzard should have been held accountable for that. But I think that a lot of the more outlandish ones, the employee killing herself, the breast milk stuff, some of the the Cosby room, all the really extreme stuff, a lot of that stuff probably wasn't true. And we're not really 100% sure on this, right? But the California government and independent investigations, and also you have people coming out and then taking back what they were saying. I mean, you put all these things together and you're starting to come to, a bit of a conclusion that maybe this didn't happen the way they said it did, right? And so if there's literally no evidence that can be found by anybody, including the government, because you've got to keep in mind that an independent investigation, I don't want to go too far off in this tangent, but it's important to keep in mind, an independent investigation does not have the power of discovery. They only have the power of basically, surrender. So, if you surrender information to them, they will be able to use that information, but they cannot legally compel you to, use information. They can't necessarily go and get deleted files. They don't have the same type of forensic capabilities that a government does. But even the government of California was not able to substantiate a lot of these claims and a lot of this evidence. So that would lead me to believe that a lot of this...
Asmongold does that too much for my comfort. Giving a lot of credit to the government. Yeah, Asmongold does that too much for my comfort. Everything the government does is wrong. Everything the government does is evil. Everything the government does is inefficient. Fuck the government, especially the government of California.
Probably didn't happen exactly the way that it said that it happened. Now, also, there's the other culture of the frat boy culture, right? And in my...
Yes, the frat boy culture. Because that's what video game devs are known for. That's what gamers are known for, is frat boy culture. Hey guys, you got to pick one. You can't have it both ways. Either we're fat loser retards in our mother's basement who've never even talked to a woman, or we're frat boys. Like, the two are incongruent with one another. Frat boys were like, we've all seen Revenge of the Nerds. Frat boys hate gamers. All right, like you might have frat boys that play games. Let's be real, ball and gun games, Call of Duty, Madden. That's not real gamers. That's normies who play games. You're not gonna find frat boy behavior at a company employing fat, sweaty retards who want to make the best min-max MMORPG. Most frat boys didn't understand what I just said in terms of saying min-max MMORPG.
Opinion, I don't think this is a bad thing. Maybe this is me. Maybe this is episode 3,957 of me being a chud, okay? But I don't think that frat boy culture is fundamentally a bad thing. I don't think that, if you have a bunch of guys acting like young guys, or even old guys that also generally act like young guys still, like they all get together and they act like assholes. They're drinking. They're, saying things that are crass, inappropriate. And I'm not talking about sexually harassing employees. I'm just talking about using coarse language and, saying the kinds of things that guys say, right? These types of things are really not a bad thing. And I think that culturally for a while...
They're not, but I also wouldn't consider that frat boy culture. Frat boy culture is a very distinctive thing. Frat boy culture is dudes working out, getting drunk every night, being meatheads, blowing off classes, not valuing intelligence. That is frat boy culture. And to be fair, there's sorority culture as well with fucking bimbos. Like, we know what frat boy culture is. Just because you've got a bunch of males acting like males does not mean frat boy.
Like a good maybe 5 or 10 years, I'd say starting in 2014, I would say ending in 2024 with Trump being elected, there was a idea that this level of like masculinity was almost synonymous with being bad, being problematic, being something that needed to be fixed, a problem that had to be solved. And I think that now, once, especially because this is what happened, right? You go back and you look at the old pictures of Alex Straza, right? Okay. She's the dragon, the red dragon goddess in World of Warcraft. And, I guess what the red dragon goddess in World of Warcraft looked like in the year 2007, right? I mean, this is obviously the hottest fucking chick with a chainmail bikini. Then they remake her, obviously, for Dragonflight. And this came right off the heels of this big sexual harassment lawsuit. And
Dragonflight was so ugly, bro. I played Dragonflight, man. The Dragonflight expansion was so visually fucking ugly, bro.
Now she's wearing way more clothes. She's like totally toned down. Boobs are smaller, all these things. And I told people, I was like, listen, guys, like, let's be a little bit pragmatic here, okay? Do you really think that they're going to, right off the heels of all these allegations, and also in the cultural climate, the main box art character is a big titty, pretty dragon girl with a chainmail bikini? Do you really...
He's a big titty dragon girl. I was like, oh, he's talking about Cindy? Oh, wait, no.
I think they're going to do this? No, they're not. It would be incredibly based if they did, but it did not happen, and it never would have happened. So it seems like this was a hit job that was done by a lot of the HR types. I think it was done also by, people that are in, like, Blizzard was always, I mean, let's be real, guys. Blizzard was a chud company. It absolutely was. They made games for chuds, and it was fucking amazing. We had an incredible 20 years, didn't we? It was great. But things changed. And I think that fundamentally the culture changed so much that they found themselves in a position, because they did mismanage World of Warcraft. And I think this had nothing to do with women or, like woke or anything. I think they just fucked the game up. And I think that, you have...
No, I think it had to do with women. Like, yeah, the two things to be true. They're going to fuck the game up. And it had to do with women. Because women always fuck shit up.
Stacking debuffs, and eventually so many stacking debuffs put you in execute range. And I think that really that sexual assault lawsuit really did execute the credibility of the company, and also the capacity of the company to make a good product. I don't really think that anything that they've made ever since then has been really that great. Overwatch is fine. World of Warcraft Classic is fine, or retail is fine. But I mean, nothing is like special, right? Nothing has like the same type of like, cultural relativity that World of Warcraft originally had, or Diablo 3 had, or Overwatch had.
Diablo 2. How much cultural relevance did Diablo 3 really have? I'd say Diablo 2.
Especially Overwatch, right? People see characters from Overwatch and they say, oh, wow, she's from a video game? I didn't even know that. And that's where we're at. Yeah, they didn't say that in 2018 when the shit came out. It was a popular fucking game. Everybody knew about Overwatch. Now people don't even know where the characters came from. So anyway, this is a big problem. It's a huge problem, and I think it's really sad to think about it. I, in a way, feel guilty, because obviously I was a big person who pushed this. I don't completely feel like I was wrong in a way, but I think at the same time, given the situation and everything, it does feel bad to know that, like the position that I was in, I believed a lot of this stuff, and I still believe at least some of it probably actually did happen. But at the same time, whenever you find out that you were effectively co-opted by a lie, I think everybody was, it can be very frustrating and it can be upsetting and it can make you feel stupid. And it's annoying that that happened. And I think that fundamentally now, one of the worst things about this is...
Divina, you're wrong. Divina says if you removed HR, nobody would notice. Bullshit. Everybody would notice. Because things would be good again. If we removed HR, things would magically get great again. We would absolutely notice.
I think this is the worst problem, is that whenever one of these big controversies happens and then it manifests into effectively nothing and it's even recanted and taken back, I think that what that does is it poisons the well for future survivors, for future victims to be able to come forward and talk about bad experiences that they had. I might be a chud, I might be an asshole, I might be a bit of a sexist, but I don't think anybody should expect to go to work.
He is not near enough of a chud, asshole, or sexist. Asmongold could do more to be a better chud, better sexist, and better asshole.
And be sexually harassed. I don't think anybody should expect to be touched without their consent, and I don't think that any of those things shouldn't warrant you getting fired. I think if you treat a person that way, if you invade a person's personal space, if you grab them in a way that's inappropriate, I think you need to leave the company. That's just not something that we do in civilized Western society.
Correct. I agree with that. Solve it by getting women out of these fucking positions. And in all reality, like, that's what he says about that's not something we do in Western society. Obviously, I agree. But let's be real. That sort of shit's not actually happening often. It's not. It's happening. It's not happening often. There were laws put into place to protect women from workplace sexual harassment in the fucking 70s. Will you tell me 50 years later, all of a sudden it's a big issue again that just sprung up out of nowhere? No, I'm sorry. You got way more people being groomed and raped by fucking Muslims that are infesting their countries than you do dudes patting women on the ass in the office.
And I think that that's been the case for a really long time, and that's a good thing. But at the same time, I think that you need to draw the line and understand where a mixed signal or maybe an accusation isn't necessarily the truth necessarily, right? I'm not saying it isn't always the truth, but sometimes it's not.
Usually it's not.
I think that really this should give people another reminder to trust but verify. It's important to make sure...
No, don't trust. No, sorry, women. You've ruined this. No more trust. You burn that fucking bridge. You come to me and tell me you've been, sexually harassed or assaulted or whatnot. I'm not trusting you at fucking all. I'll definitely still verify, but there's no trust. You fucking ruined that. You ruined it with me too. You ruined it with me too. You ruined it with all the false accusations. You ruined it when Aziz Ansari, a comedian I can't even fucking stand, got accused of rape because of a bad date. Same thing happened to Chris Hardwick, right? How many accusations? Nearly every single goddamn one of them. Nearly every one of them turned out to be fake. So fuck your trust but verify bullshit. Trust is a privilege, and y'all women have squandered that privilege. Shout out, Hypno. Thank you for the raid, homie. Appreciate you.
That we listen to what people who are, potential survivors or people who are, victims of these types of behaviors, we have to listen to them and at least to a certain degree understand what they're saying to be potentially true in order to investigate and figure out whether it actually is. But at the same time, I think that especially then, and even now, we need to take ourselves away from the perspective of just looking at it from the dimension of, okay, well, this person said this, let's take it with zero evidence, right? And whenever you really go back and you think about it, and this is something that's important to keep in mind, what evidence really was presented? What evidence was really out there that Blizzard had all these huge problems?
People will say a lawsuit is evidence. No, you could sue over anything. I could sue you guys in chat for being mean to me right now. I mean, you guys aren't. Oftentimes you are, and it's fun. I love it. It's hilarious. The point is, you can sue over anything. A lawsuit isn't evidence. A lawsuit is just like it's. I can't think of a single thing Blizzard ever provided in terms of actual evidence that this sort of shit was going on.
It was really just people saying this, right? There were no real pictures. There were no videos. There was no chat messages and anything that was leaked out or anything like that. It was just simply a, basically a he said, she said situation. And so I think that what happened now is that, like we've had that happen. And now there are people that come forward and they do say like, hey, I was taken advantage of, abused, etc. And because of the bad actions.
Sorry, don't care. Even if it's true, this is how chutified I am. This is how chutified I am. If you waited 10 years to tell an accusation, to tell a assault story, even if it's true, I don't fucking care. Because you could have come forward with this 10 years ago. You could have started legal proceedings. You could have done something about it then. You could have shown receipts then. I don't give a fuck. Yep, police report if true. Even wrong chat. Even if it ended up being true. But you waited 10 years to tell your story? Fuck you. You could have done it all 10 years ago when it was fresh, when there was evidence, when things could be proven. So yeah, no, sorry, go fuck yourself. Again, the majority of awful, evil, deplorable women have spoiled it for the rest of y'all.
Of seemingly the people in California and also Blizzard making these accusations or embellishing them seemingly, now it's going to be even harder for people that are legitimate to be taken seriously. And I think that's a very, very sad and bad thing to have happen. So really, to me, I am just disappointed in this whole thing. I'm disappointed to see what's happened. I don't really think that, like if this hadn't happened, Blizzard would still be making games that are on the same level of aura of, like.
Yep, E. Jean Carroll's a great example of this. E. Jean Carroll is a great example of this. And that was a civil suit. That wasn't even criminal. People treat it like it was.
Like the Warlords of Draenor cinematic, like I don't think that really would have happened either way. But at the same time, I think that it definitely would be better than it is now. And the more that I read the way the California filings, almost demonize the idea that they had a certain, dominant, gender or ethnic group that was running the company, and they looked at this as like an intrinsic problem. I realized that this seems to be a hit job. This seemed to be a instance in which they wanted this company to comply with an ideology.
An ideology. How hilarious is it? It will never not be funny that a company called Blizzard got taken over and ruined by a bunch of fucking snowflakes. Oh, the irony!
And the company was not complying with the ideology, and then they weaponized different complaints and different, legislative and legal and administrative and judicial things to punish them for not acquiescing and not basically playing along. And I think that's really sad to see happen, especially whenever you have a lot of people who lost their jobs over this. Obviously, Blizzard, it's like you used to, a lot of people, like every game dev that I know, right, or anybody that I knew that got into game dev or whatever, they would always tell me like, well, the dream job is to be able to work at Blizzard, right? Well, now you don't want to work at Blizzard because people ask you like, okay, so who was drinking the breast milk, right? And it just, it's not as exciting as people that want to know what the new WoW expansion is, okay? So it's a little bit
shout out, thank you for the sub, AJ the DJ. Appreciate you.
Awkward, you could say. So that's really the video I wanted to talk about. Right now it's always going to be, I think it'll forever be a he said she said situation. I think many of
thank you for the 10 gold coin jewels. Appreciate you, Aztec.
The accusations probably were to some degree true, but at the extent that they were, presented, it's probably not accurate. And it seemed like Blizzard was not acquiescing to the, woke identity politics agenda stuff. And this was, of course, evidenced in, of course, what I said before, the filings, right? This was defined as a problem. And fundamentally, I think that there is a war on, that type of culture. And the people that use these types of rules will do this, and they will weaponize and pull every lever they possibly can. And I think that it's important that...
And we need to do the same in response. They set the rules of engagement. You fight back using their exact same tactics. I don't want to hear none of this like, we have to take the high road. We have to be the good guys. Fuck that. The moment they set the rules of engagement, you use the same dirty, underhanded tactics to fight the fuck back. You destroy them.
Us that are normal people, right, have to make sure that we have our guard up and not let these people subvert us or lie or take advantage of us like they have many times. And I think this is just one more example of it. And I wanted to make this video and talk about it and just kind of set the record straight, at least the best that I can, because I talked about it a lot whenever it happened. So I'd be curious to hear everybody else's thoughts on this and what everybody else thinks. And at the end of the day, I'll be keeping up with this as, more pieces of information arise. But ultimately, it's just really sad to see what happened. And I hope that, I hope things can get better. And I hope, obviously, we can move past this hysteria.
Things will never get better. At least not for Blizzard. I mean, I'm a pretty white-pilled dude. I think that things in general will get better. Absolutely. We are seeing massive cultural movements away from this level of ideology. But Blizzard is too far gone. There are some companies that are too far gone. They will never be what they were. Wizards of the Coast will never be what they were. Blizzard will never be what they were. Most Western gaming companies probably will never be what they were. Hollywood, Disney will never be what they were. I do think the culture will shift and things will get better. New companies will rise from the ashes. They will be making things people want to see. Yes, Leona will never be what she was. Exactly.
I think that we already are, as evidenced by the amount of blowback and hostility for, these accusations now. But it's a long road to go. And we're not there yet, but I'm glad to see at least one of these things that was bullshit be put to bed. So anyway, guys, that's about it. That's it. Wow, how about that? Who could have expected all these outlandish stories were actually seemingly mostly embellished? So anyway.
Nah, embellish is the wrong word. Straight up false. There's the link. Make sure you give it a like, give it a sub, the whole nine. Things like this are why I actively pray for the death of the gaming industry. Like, when I say women cause this, I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm not trying to be sexist to be funny and whatnot. Chud, sexism. No. This is a woman problem. And actually, beyond that, it's a man problem. Men let this happen. Men being failing to lead, men being absolute cucks and soy boy baby back bitches. They're not willing to put a fucking woman in their place at the place of employment. Nah. Men caused this. Women just took advantage of it. And it's fucking sad to see. With that being said, guys, we've been going for 2.5 hours. We're going to be out of like 4 circles. We do have the watch party tonight in the Discord for, what was the movie? What movie are we watching tonight? How to Be a Player. So this Discord watch party at roughly 9 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, give or take. Discord watch party, and then we will be on, me and Hypno will be doing over on the gaming channel, our co-op gaming night streams. So I think we're going back to Lords of the Fallen. Might do something else. Not entirely sure yet. But yes, we have that tonight. So gaming stream, watch party, if you're a member of the Discord, is going to be dope. I will see you guys tomorrow for Neon Leon. Going to be an awesome time. Until next time, it is all here in the Nerdosphere. This has been Words of Paradise. Deuces, crew.